All right, we are live.
Live,
So, Billy,
back from the land of the dead.
yeah. Well, and actually, I had a question because I've been noticing a lot of the same conversations being had in multiple spaces that I pay attention to. Um, and actually, I had a conversation with a gentleman earlier about some stuff that was going on in his life, like with his mom and shit. And the term white knight came up, and I see this term being used in various different bubbles. Um, and what I see that happens is a lot of people get accused of being white knights when they're actually just trying to be, a good person that has integrity. So I'm wondering if we could break down some of the differences of being a quote unquote white knight for whatever reason, whether it be emotionally terrorized white knight or um, somebody actually acting out of good intentions
Well,
instead of
yeah,
fear, and somebody that's grounded in principles that has integrity that can be counted on. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean,
there's a big difference
from,
there.
from my understanding, it's pretty simple and shouldn't really require much sort of depth. However,
Yeah.
um, for uh, depending on a person's intention, all that definition
Right.
can go out the window. It doesn't really. It can because it might not serve their purpose. So
Right.
it so to be particular about a definition can actually go against someone's need, which would be part of the reason why they'll just discard the definition. So, from what I understand, in terms of the actual sort of definition, when a man, in particular the knight, jumps to a woman's rescue in their defense and kind of like stands in the way, like Captain Saberho, or save
Right.
the damsel in distress sort of
Right.
syndrome, as it were. And that's pretty much as far as it goes. Uh,
Yeah.
in the
Well,
narcissistic community, this would be basically a flying monkey
a
that would
flying
come
monkey. Yes.
to the defense of the narcissist, and and will come to the rescue of the narcissist. So
Right.
they get in between whoever it is that is on the warpath going to attack the narcissist, or in the case of the White Knight, they get in the way of the attacker or the danger. It might not necessarily be a person that is going to damage or injure the woman. Um, it might be some kind of entity or whatever. It might be maybe it could be something like she is struggling for money. She is in a case of poverty, and here comes Captain Saberho to bail her out with some funds. So there isn't
Right.
actually a person attacking her. It's a case of that she's
Her
struggling.
life choices.
Her choices, her circumstances, her situation, or whatever it is. But
Yeah.
here comes someone who doesn't, who isn't really necessary or needed to bail her out of her own accountability or responsibilities,
Right.
which is something that she should feasibly be able to do by herself. But here is Prince Charming or whoever it is that has gone above and beyond unnecessarily and done it on her. She might not even have requested it, but he's felt it is it is now his duty or obligation when really it isn't to do this. And he might feel as though it is an act of kindness or an obligation or
Right.
some sort of etiquette or social
Act of
cue or whatever.
kindness. I've seen that intention coming from some of these what I would consider a misdirected white knight. As
Yeah.
trying to do something as an act of kindness, but I see a lot of that as being a, oh, how do I put that? Being a not so kind thing that our
Yeah.
society has entrained a lot of men to believe is
Well,
kindness.
yeah. So I was gonna touch. Yeah. I mean, whether or not. I mean, this is where it gets a little bit more nuanced, I suppose. Where whether or not he's got some kind of expectation of like a transactional sort of like he's expecting her to say thank you to him, or be a favor is owed to him, or he's now in her good books, or he's expecting to get a shag out of it or something like that, you know. Or because this is, as the description is, this is the white knight. This is the
Yeah,
knight to fight for the queen. I think I've mentioned it before, where it is
yeah,
the queen that gives him some kind of insignia.
right,
He wears her, like she provides him with the armor for which he is wearing. So
right.
he's wearing the queen's coat of arms, or her insignia, like whatever it is that's embossed into his chest or his shield. Um, so
And
whether or
that's
not they're
usually a group identity that I see people parading their banners. Like,
right,
like
and
when
as
I,
a group identity, or to
yeah,
be in the, is it the harem, or in the court of Her Majesty,
yeah,
like he will be um, granted um, like this sort of group identity or community. So by being a white knight, he can now be in the club. That could be
right,
part of the exchange or transaction that takes place, where
right.
all the favor that is gained by saving this damsel or this queen or whoever it is,
Or fucking developmentally
to save a
retarded
home.
white strag.
Right. So I mean, he might. So is it really an act of kindness if he is doing it in
Out of,
order
right,
to get some form of security? Essentially, this would be like a sense of security. Like if it's Captain Saberho as an example. So we're not necessarily talking about knights and queens in this grand kind of way. I mean, it could be a kind of like a cuck or a simp who's basically trying to get into the pants of some whore,
yeah.
or hoe or whatever. Um,
So how does it make sense that a man would call another man a white knight if that man was literally sticking up for another man that's being mislabeled or accused of shit, or
um,
how does
I
that
think
work?
I think we have a couple of competing possibilities, and they could all sort of mingle, complement each other as well. But it could also be
Yeah.
stated. It sort of depends a little bit on the circumstance, because we got pretty clear examples of times when um, someone has kind of like white knighted and it ended up horribly wrong. Like what was that one where um, there was a shop robbery because the girl was something about Doritos, so they came back and got the boyfriend, and the boyfriend got stabbed in the neck and he died. He was basically a white knight or a black knight or whatever. Um, and there were plenty of other examples that people could bring up where these are sort of like interactions in the public domain when the fellow has ended up basically losing their life. So that's like white knight gone wrong. But what you're describing, when like men are calling other men white knights, and especially in these sort of like YouTube communities, it becomes a bit more, like I think it becomes a bit more complicated, but
Right.
it becomes more expansive as a result of this, like we were saying at the start, where if we can move the goalpost with definitions of white knight,
Right.
then the playing field becomes bigger.
Right.
So it becomes sort of like unnecessarily expanded, but in part that's also probably like a requirement for whatever mind games are being um, sort of played out that are really going under the radar. So what I mean by that is you might have someone who is they're very confrontational, they're antagonistic, they want to they got low self-esteem, so they want to make themselves feel big and manly, big balls or whatever.
Right.
So they need an opponent, so they're looking for trouble already, and they want to find someone they can kind of step on or something like that. So here comes someone for a variety of reasons might trigger that sense of security, but they're gonna pin this label on them and be like, "You there, you are a white knight, and now I'm going to ridicule you or dig into you with this um, excuse, pretty much this accusation.
Right.
It might not necessarily be true, but doesn't really matter because the real agenda here is I need to step on you, and that's what's really going on.
Right. Domination.
And it might not just be like, yeah, domination.
Yeah.
But domination, this would come under the umbrella of needing control. So I don't feel like I have control of myself and my environment. So this is why I become dominating and try to exert control over other people's, because essentially I feel as though I haven't got control of my own. And it might not just be like, I'm going to accuse you of being a white knight. Hey, you're simping. You're a cuck. You know, you're not a man. You're a femboy, or you're a soy boy, or you're an incel. There's plenty of insults or slurs to throw at someone.
Right. Which, if they're directed appropriately, could be helpful into getting people. I mean, because we've lost the ability to shame people, right? To help socialize them properly.
But I think
Which,
this,
I mean, sometimes that's true.
yeah, but I think where we run into a problem is because we've got such a diversity of slurs, and there's always like an eagerness to have a new one, so
Yeah.
that whoever it is that coins that new term can have kind of like credit for it.
Yeah.
We end up diluting definitions. Because
Right.
this is why we end up with this problem. Like, so what is a red pill? What is a black pill? Hey, what is an incel? What does MGTOW mean?
Right.
Everyone's got their own interpretation. So the more, and even like as we're discussing it right now to try and clarify it, we're just one interpretation of many.
Yeah.
Like this conversation we're having is not the definitive, carved in stone part of the Ten Commandments that the gospel that everyone needs to follow and adhere to.
Yeah.
I mean,
See, actually, that's kind of what I thought it was going to be. So we could sort this out, so people can start using appropriate language.
well, if it becomes such a thing where it's like, hey, well, if you cut out all the ums and ers and the padded stuff or whatever, then basically, we can condense it down and be like, yeah, that's pretty much solid, or at least solid enough where we can go with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That would be for us to decide. That'd be like the decision of the court, the jury, or whoever. So it's down to
this is the online court.
people.
Yeah.
Right, the online court or whatever. It'll be down to them to decide, like, hey, and they'll link it to other people, be like, hey, check out this stream, this video. I think they've got a pretty good definition, or they conceptualize what a white knight is pretty accurately. Boom, there you go. Or whatever, whoever's video has the best sort of definition or description or whatever.
Well, because I see a lot of people throwing around accusations of white knighthood, and they're misplaced. Because I think there's a distinct difference between a person or thing that comes to someone's aid, a person or company making an acceptable counteroffer. Let's see, a white knight is a mythological figure that literary stock character portrayed alongside Black Knight as dramatic opposites. White Knight usually represents a heroic warrior fighting against evil with a role in medieval literature. So because there's multiple meanings, I mean, I don't see this as being a terrible definition for a white knight. If they're usually represents a heroic warrior fighting against evil, like how is that a bad thing?
Well, it's already in the world or the realm of magical descriptions,
Yeah,
like warriors fighting evil. I mean,
yeah,
come on. It's just like you got one dickhead fighting some asshole.
yeah,
Let's not, we're talking about dragons and medieval, and
yeah,
uh, it gets. I know it's cute and whatever,
yeah,
and people like to think of themselves as heroes and warriors, but come on, like down to reality, please, folks.
yeah,
Come on.
yeah,
We're not that. Well, one should try not to glorify their life in such a way. I mean, no wonder you have problems if this is the epic landscape that people are going out forth into the world thinking
yeah,
like I'm not going to just help a woman with her shopping because she's got her bags are too big and heavy. No, I must save this fair maiden from the 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 shackles of her what like boulderous shopping bags of
right.
contemptuous oppression, and I am the only knight to be able to do this for her. Stand aside, mortals. Let your you know what I mean. It's sort of like it's like get your head out your ass at that point. But
Yeah,
I think what makes the White Knight more despicable is this. We touched on it a moment ago, where we're saying like with this expectation of some kind of reward, like um, it's very when there's this sort of I'm gonna be heroic. I'm gonna use that language now. I'm gonna be heroic or whatever. I'm gonna slay the dragon. I'm gonna fight the evil with this expectation of now being bestowed with I don't know honor and virtue or something.
right.
It makes it much more. You come across as a bit more of a needy, desperate type of person. Whereas someone who, let's say, was helping with the shopping for a complete stranger, never to see him again,
Yeah,
thinks nothing of it. It's just like, it's no big deal, no sweat on my back, whatever.
exactly. That would be something that
It's like decency, it's like,
right.
but it's like, no,
It's having integrity, right? Like when I
yeah,
see a lot of people throwing around that word at people that actually I view as having fucking integrity, which in my opinion should be the baseline for every fucking individual, but unfortunately it's not as common as it should be. Like
right.
they throw it in the realm of magical stuff because it's not
But
as common.
now we're getting like a society of jerks and assholes because it's like, I'm not going to hold a door open for a woman ever. It's
Right.
like, well, why not? Like, why does that make you a cuck? Does it? It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's like, especially if it's, you yourself are fully able, you're bodied or whatever, you're standing right next to the door, you're already holding the door open, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
well,
there's been a lot of men that have gotten humiliated and a lot of shitty attitude, unwarranted shitty attitude directed at them just for being decent
it
and
says
having a
more
habit
about,
of
yeah,
doing that.
that's right, and it says more about the people who are getting their knickers in a twist and making these accusations, like, oh, that man who's holding the door open, he's a simp, he's a cuck, he's a pussy because he's doing that. It's just like
Right.
he's actually a decent guy. I
Yeah.
think you're
Well,
the,
and from
you're the one that seems to,
feminists specifically that are like, "Oh, I don't need you to do that for me." Like there's a lot
uh,
of guys I've heard a lot of stories about really shitty attitudes in its geographical, of course. Like somebody's more inclined to behave in such a way in maybe a big city in like California or New York rather than down south. Like
yeah. I mean, we're seeing lots of cultural shifts
yeah,
and um, attitude, like changes in people's attitudes, and it's a little. I find it a little stinky, because
Yeah.
there's there's no gray. It's either you are or you aren't.
Right.
So like the black and white thinking kind of thing. And
Epistemological dichotomania that is
I mean, I can give
running rampant in our
yeah, and which
society.
is why. So it's sort of like, so you can't be half a white knight, or you can't be like just someone with some etiquette or courtesy or politeness or manners or something like that. No, it's either you're an absolute asshole or you're a full blown super white knight.
Yeah. Super galactic white knight.
And it is for a lot of people to have either to hold both concepts at the same time or to see a kind of spectrum in between. It's like it's too much effort. It's
Yeah.
as a bit of a tangent, but it comes to mind anyway as an example. It's like when people say, I'm leaning into this sort of narcissistic community lingo here.
Yeah.
They recently discover what they're dealing with. Oh my God, I'm dealing with this thing called a narcissist, and they realize that their own position. What do I do? My life's been flipped upside down, and they hear the words, "Oh, you need to have boundaries," and they go,
Right.
"Right, bingo! I got the magic word, boundaries." Right, what does that mean? So, right, you basically you say no to everything. You put up your hands and tell them to fuck off, kind of thing. And they go, "Right, got it, Roger," and they go around basically like full on boundaries, everything, boundary, and this is infantile behavior. This is simplistic way. It's like, yes, in the short term, in the immediate here and now, because you're very vulnerable, you're exposed to dangers around you, you have no idea what you're doing. So
Right.
as a kind of like rule of thumb or whatever, just to get you going, yes, basically boundaries. But it's not this doesn't mean like you bury yourself in a coffin and cover yourself with cement. No one's
Right.
going to get me now. I mean, you can do that if you want, but good luck breathing. So um, so it's a infantile, novice way. I mean, you could almost argue. Now, this might ruffle up a whole bunch of people's feathers, but when we give people like red pill knowledge or red pill education, it's almost like that is novice level of education. And what people are lacking now is a master's level, where it's like there are much more nuances and things to be more like receptive to, or more things to be considered. Well, it's just like taking your skill levels to a master's level. So it's not so like you can't just sort of say like women bad, and you know
Right.
be done with it, and white knights bad, and just have this kind of flippant um, lack of care or consideration. Like, I'm of the philosophy, I suppose, where, like, taking this boundary thing as an example, if I know myself well enough, if I'm so-called red pilled enough, if I'm able to have emotional literacy, understanding, intelligence, and I'm able to whatever, then I shouldn't have to necessarily go no contact. I'm not the one that needs to go no contact. It's my enemies that will go no contact.
Yeah.
There's this thing where people get worried that they're going to bump into their ex in the street, and it's
Right.
going to make them feel bad. Oh
Right.
my God, it's my ex, and they got their new partner. I was never like, so they walk around like as if there's a ghost. Like, oh, I never know where it might be around the corner, kind of thing. I'm like,
Right.
I'm not going to have this problem.
Right.
If me and my ex bump into each other, she's the one that's going to have to run off all scared as if she's seen a ghost, not me.
Right. Right.
I don't need to go no boundaries and cage myself off to the world. I'm gonna go where I please, and she better not. If we butt heads or whatever, that's her problem. It's not gonna be mine. And I feel, I mean, that's in the face of basically counter dependency, and I think this is what a lot of men are suffering from, because it's too much effort to decipher the various outcomes and situations. So it's like, so in this situation, I need to say that person's a white knight, but not in that situation. I can't understand how these two situations differ.
Right.
There's too much mental energy and effort for me to have to bother with. It's much more easier, lazy of me, if I just say, fuck it, everyone's a white knight. You're all pussies.
Right. Right. Actually, Peng brought something up because Peng was actually there. You know the video me and Contriver were kind of dissecting yesterday. That
Yeah,
exchange where
yeah.
truism. See,
Yeah.
and the way I look at that, truism was behaving pretty much the same way Brandon Trueblood's behaving, and I see that as emotionally terrorized from the crazy bitches that are trying to dodge accountability. Like, I put less responsibility on those men as I do the fucking women that are pulling their strings currently. Because I know where the shit's coming from. And when they say the things that they're puppeting, they're literally regurgitating what has been fed to them by these fucking cunts. Anyway, so Peng actually wasn't very happy with his behavior, and he spoke up about it, and he got accused of simping for me during that thing because, you know, he was kind of calling out the behavior that was being displayed.
It doesn't make sense.
Right.
From what I heard, with there are people emailing other men, and from what I understand, they are frightened to speak up
Right.
because they're scared of you.
Right. Oh yeah, the True Blood one.
So
Yeah.
if you're so fierce,
Yeah.
deadly, and dangerous,
Right.
you're more of an opponent than any, or you're more of a warrior, or you're more of a knight than any possible white knight could be for you. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the people that are actually afraid and see me as such a danger are the fucking women. And then what they do with that information, because they're right. They're absolutely a fucking right. Because I will destroy every single crazy bitch that we have in our society currently. That's one of my goals. And they know I can achieve it. That's why they have to emotionally terrorize men to get them to believe that my target is them and not the fucking women. Like,
You're bringing up an interesting. So that's it's an interesting point. I didn't actually really think of that before.
yeah.
Where
I mean, the men are regurgitating what the fucking feminists are feeding them. So they're right. They're just passing on a message about how these crazy bitches feel about me. But it alters people's perception, I think, because the guys that are already afraid of women, I think, will take that on a little stronger and think that I'm coming after them. Or
we're touching on several points now.
yeah.
So the point you're making about they become a mouthpiece for the feminists, or
They're puppets.
they're puppeting or parroting what they've heard before.
Yes.
I mean, you could argue that this could be a result of a lack of sense of self. There is no individualism there, so they are just basically like a conduit.
See, I don't see that either, because they do have a sense of self when they're not being traumatized.
Or
they have a better sense of self unless they're terrorized emotionally.
Maybe not a total void, lack of space, a sense of self, but maybe more of a malleable or unsolidified or something like that, where it's a sense of self, but it's prone to being exploited by other people easily.
Well, they have chinks in their armor. They have chinks, and these predacious fucking feminist cunts know exactly where those holes are, and they get in there and fucking terrorize them.
And before I forget, I'll quickly mention that the interesting point you made, or maybe think about, which is, so you would get intentional white knights, someone who is constantly thinking, yes, I'm going to go save this damsel, and here I go to save the day, and off they go with their theme tune or whatever. And I suppose you'd get unintentional or unaware white knights. They're oblivious, they don't even realize they're doing it.
Yes, vicarious white knights. There's literally some MGTOW gents that are unknowingly white knighting for fucking Atlas right now. But the only reason they're doing that is because they've received it third, fourth hand through men that the crazy bitches have already recruited.
That brings up a new problem, because if you were to now say to this person, hey, I don't think you're aware that you're being a white knight.
Right.
They've got generally, I think, off the top of my head, basically two responses. One would be like, oh yeah, I didn't realize that. Thanks for letting me know. Jeez, wow, I've been such a fool. And the other one would be sort of like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. So like, no matter how much proof and evidence you show them, like, no, look, you're being a white knight. They'll be like, no, I'm not going to accept that. And that could be for a whole bunch of reasons why they're not going to accept it. Denial, number one, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, all the men that I've heard puppet the things have all admitted that they're getting this information secondhand. Even Truism said, like, I was the 14th person to find out about this. Like, I don't even know why I'm here, pretty much. I'm like, well, then what are you doing? Like,
right.
It's all hearsay. Yeah.
I mean, what you mentioned here right now with like getting information, they can, with a bit of probing, they and a bit of time. It takes. This is the thing. It's very time consuming. Information starts to become like divulged or whatever. It's like, oh, so you found this out from so and so, and so you as an observer can piece the dots together.
Yes.
Them from their point of view can't really do well. Either they can or they can't, but it seems like the majority are unaware, so they don't realize that the dots that they are presenting the dots that can be connected. If
they keep confessing all the things and telling on the people who are doing it.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be a white knight.
There's no secrets, Billy. There's no secrets. I know exactly who's doing it and why, their motivation.
Things like that.
So
lack of boundaries, emotions are overspilling or overflowing.
Yes.
There's no containment. There is a propensity to actually want to divulge such information, because it's the only time they have or chance they have at. We talk about like processing your emotions or processing your thoughts. Well, now's the time to do it. It's out in the open. There's no filters usually, and there is no recognition of the significance of what is being said. And so even if the dots are being joined for them, they still can't really understand the gravity of the situation, because as you're trying to plot this line graph, like, look, we start at A, B, C, D, E, F, and like here we are at M or whatever. Now think about A, and they're like, whoa, I can't think of A. So, well, you need to think of all of this. It all adds together. It's like, no, I can't think of. But it's a problem with that dichotomous thinking. They can't. They can't think of the past and present and the future all at the same time.
Right.
So poor decision making, poor foresight, no insight, that kind of stuff. So as a result, you're not going to be able to think of consequences. You can't really be accountable because you can't really think what led up to where you are now. And not that they want to particularly be accountable anyway. So we're already ticking off a whole criteria of similar checkboxes we've heard before in the past. We've got poor sense of self, poor boundaries, emotional thinking, impulsivity, survivalistic mindsets, erratic behavior. The list goes on.
But it's all stemming from fear. Like, that's how these emotional terrorists get in. They push those fear buttons and get people riled up, And when your emotions are high, your fucking
yeah.
critical thinking's low.
Right. Yeah.
And
The
then they're
fear is
surrounded by a bunch of people that are circle jerking, emotion raping them.
Oh yeah. So
So
that adds to the environmental
yes,
hysteria. And
yes,
hysteria, like emphasis on that
yes,
word, what's going around at the moment. There is so much
yeah,
hysteria,
yes.
um, and people going, "Oh, clown world," and never mind that.
Yeah, no, crazy bitchified
Like
everybody.
like just look around, like you know, exercise for everyone at home, kind of thing. Look around you and look how chaotic things are. Does it have to be that way? Why is it being that way? Well,
Yeah. Because
yeah,
crazy bitchery is fucking contagious if you don't have good boundaries. And
right,
if you can't see it for exactly what it is, like, I think a lot of people have so much unprocessed stuff and are really confused about what's really going on in the world
yeah.
and
I mean,
have been attacked and are currently being attacked, but they don't really know where the attack is coming from because
right.
the people that are doing the attacking are coming under the guise of, oh, hi,
Well,
how
we have a
are
solution.
you? Oh, I really like you. Here, let me
Yeah,
help you. Like
yeah, and they provide.
superficial fucking pleasantries.
Right, and they got the solution and the answers, and we're on your side. Hey, so it's
Which isn't much different from what I'm doing, but I'm not lying when I say that. These other people are literally creating the problem that they then have the answer and solution for, but it doesn't fix it, it just makes it worse because
well,
they're lying.
yeah. I mean, it's in bad faith, and so it's
Yes.
disingenuous. It's exploitation. It's
Yeah.
deceptive. It's some other kind of intentional agenda or whatever is going on. It's
Right.
malicious. It's
Very malicious.
subversion. Um,
And behind it all, it's malicious fucking women. It's the
and
women that are doing this and
and
driving
it's
it.
it's, it's a form of here's one for the racial community. It's a form of slavery because at least
Yeah.
when say you're doing it, you're not trying to take away someone's independence or their own autonomy.
Right.
The other side, on the other hand, are doing they don't want you to have your think for yourself. Hell no, I'm going to do the thinking for you. I'm not going to allow you to have your autonomy. You're going to be my henchman, you're my slave or something like that. You're going to do my bidding. You're not going to be allowed any freedom. I give you life. I give you breath. You work for me now, kind of thing. And I feed you what information you need to know to be able to carry out my will.
Right. Right.
So quite a stark
Clips.
difference.
Clips. I've noticed they love these clips. I keep hearing these guys say, "Oh, I saw this clip. I was given this clip." And the shit's given to these people by people they actually fucking trust, which is a really fucked up part about it. Like,
Clips.
yeah,
I'm not sure if
that little clip that I saw, that 20-second clip where you said this thing, where it was taken out of context of this huge
okay.
conversation, that
So part
Alice
of the
said she's part of the clip gang. So they
uh,
have a clip gang, and they psycho fucking watch my content
well,
to
okay,
find me saying
interesting.
one little tiny thing that they can then
Hmm.
use for their fucking narrative, which is
Well,
gross. It's really fucking gross. Because if they
and
were paying attention and listening through all of it, they would realize how fucking wrong they are and how much trouble they're going to ultimately get in for their
yeah,
emotional terrorism and domestic terrorism that they're
yeah,
literally committing as we speak.
yeah. I was going to say abuse because
Yes.
what it sounds like, and I could tie this in with. I was going to. I started making a document on sexual remarks, the psychology of sexual remarks. There's also
Mm,
the psychology of shock and disgust.
yeah.
Um, Now, it's a strategy, a part of or a tactic of leaving imprints in the mind. So
Right.
we're scarring, so or they are, or whoever. When people do these kind of remarks and these quips, they know that people's attention is shorter. Well, nowadays it's getting shorter and shorter, right?
Yes.
So you don't. If you're going to indoctrinate someone or condition someone or whatever, brainwash someone, you don't want to really do it over. Well, you'd probably do it a couple of different ways. You probably would have a few sessions that are just long until you beat them down into submission. But if
Right.
you really want to kind of um, uh, get into their head, as it were. Like you would probably do it in small incremental doses,
Little
right?
stabs,
Little
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 tiny
stabs, little
cuts.
doses, little clips, as you're saying,
Yeah, yeah,
little imprints, and the human brain is quite visually based or whatever. We like imagery. I mean, look, we were talking about white knights and shining armor earlier, and the Queen's crown or whatever. So we like to be imaginative. We let our minds wander, and so when our brains are imprinted, essentially we are being conditioned with a almost like a post-traumatic stress disorder,
right.
because with PTSD you're dealing with flashbacks, you're dealing with those like things that have left imprints that have scarred you.
See, and that's a something I just can't wrap my mind around, the flashback thing.
I mean, it's kind of like a PTSD light version. It's not authentic. Everyone's saying they got PTSD now, but
Yeah,
that's like
this
another
flashback
the,
thing, I can't
the goalpost
I
is moving.
can't co-sign on that. I don't get it. I see it as a emotionally dysregulated. Like somebody gets offended because they're taking something somebody else says and they're taking it personally, which I find very narcissistic. And because they're offended that somebody else is saying something that might expose them personally, like can you call that a flashback or
Um,
a, a
Reliving an
reaction from a
experience.
fucking cowardly liar? Like that's what I
Something
call it.
from what is researched and brought up by certain, people who are suffering from it, um, they're having flashbacks. They're like still shots from a slideshow or something like that, or shots from a scene of a movie kind of thing. Um, you got CPTSD and you got regular PTSD.
Right.
One would be more of a felt like PTSD. You will have these flashback memories of moments that happened in the past, obviously. Whereas CPTSD, more complex, hasn't particularly got a point of origin that you can put your finger on. So it'll generally be experienced as a sensation or a feeling. There's a bit more vagueness to where this trauma has come from,
Right.
which is why and PTSD is associated with life-threatening situations. So people in war, they
Right.
not not
See, and
not
I
they
see a
didn't
lot of
have your
men. I
the
see a
shop
lot of
wasn't
men.
selling donuts and you're like, oh, I've got PTSD. Like, no,
Right.
you're jumping on the bandwagon.
Right. I don't put the crazy bitches in that category though, because they're lying. And that's why they're so fucked up, because they keep trying to cover up their lies with more lies. I don't put that in the PTSD category.
Right. But maybe we're going off on a bit of a tangent here with the
Yeah.
PTSD.
Yeah.
So the point is these clips, we're conditioning, we're trying to traumatize people, we're abusing people, um, and we're brainwashing them so that when they're not in the presence of the abuser, the victim is the work is taking effect on them. So like they could be ruminating on it, for example, and with a bit of cognitive dissonance because they can't derive their own answers. The abuser has to give them the answers, but the abuser's not there right now, so they're left in limbo, ruminating on this trauma, these imprints. Hey, I was showing that clip or so and so, and it's circulating. Now we've got cyclic thinking, um, part of all of that cluster of other behavioral traits going on, and basically, there a number of not just a numbers being done on them, but they're being bombarded with however you want to describe it, indoctrination, brainwashing, body snatching, whatever. Now, where the where what matters comes into effect is whether or not this victim or this target is able to protect themselves, and that sadly is where I think the masterclass is needed, because
Yes.
people might think they're red pill and, oh, I know my I got eagle eyes or whatever, I can spot a feminist a mile away, and it's like, yeah, what about the one right behind you or something like,
Right. What about the one with her hand up your ass, working your mouth like a puppet?
yeah, I mean, I
Oh,
find it
you don't see that
so
one.
amazing, like, and I don't want to sound too mean, but I mean, sometimes, like, now then you have to sort of gauge in the level of malicious intent. Like, okay, maybe some of your colleagues are emotional thinkers.
Right.
um, I mean, there's a lot of trauma and emotionally damaged men in the manosphere, if we're honest.
Yeah.
So, so statistically speaking, not just to sound paranoia or anything, but there's a percentage of guys in communities who have issues, and it's almost like not really factored in. It's like, that doesn't matter. We know women got issues, but I'm going to overlook the fact that the people I'm talking to on this panel might have issues as well, as if we're on the same team. So okay, I can. That your issues aren't a big problem. It's like, no, you don't realize how detrimental some of these can be. I mean, we like to, all right, going back to the narcissistic comparison in the narcissistic community field. It's all attention towards the narcissist and how messed up in the head they are. But when we look at the victim, I mean, if we're honest, how messed up in the head are the victims?
Right.
And in some ways, you could argue they're more messed up in the head than the narcissist is. Because at least with the narcissist, you understand eventually, you'll understand that this is how the narcissist operates. It's
Right.
in their kind of design and programming. That's not to justify or give them a way out or of accountability or whatever. But once you figure out how narcissism works, it's pretty quite simple and evident. It's the victim that's far more complex and struggles and needs treatment and becomes more of an issue.
Yeah.
So who's really messed up in the head? Oh, I don't want to sound, that sounds unsympathetic of me to say, but
Well,
who,
they screw
I
up
think
people's heads.
right. So,
Yeah. Like
but
the
if men are serious about men's health,
right.
uh, we need to be a bit more, um, like, hands-on in terms of breaking down what's really going on. If we want to have a future, if we want to have our health and mental health, and we want what's best for us, um, etc., then we need to stop glossing over things
Right.
in this novice level. Like, we need to go on the masterclass.
Right.
I'm not saying that we need to have a super red pill or some other silly terminology.
Right. Just crazy bitch boot camp graduates. We can we can call it that. Johnny's talking about some interesting stuff. I'm trying not to get sidetracked. It has to do with chronic and glowies and feds and
Glowies, they're originally like the Men in Black, aren't they?
I don't know. First time I heard the word glowy, fucking Alice was accusing me of being a glowy months and months ago. So I'd never really heard anybody talk about glowy. Probably because I've just been paying attention to these crazy bitches and what they've been saying for fucking months. I haven't. Everyone was talking to Psych earlier. I'm so behind on podcasts and all kinds of other shit because I've just been collecting the trails of these crazy cunts. So the footage of Chronic and Hammer, UC said some sketchy stuff. That was what got the glowies to mobilize. I mean, it was dumb stuff. I don't know. Puppet. Bang.
What are you doing?
Yeah, puppets. Because I actually, I sent that documentary Kwafi Nino did to the campus cop and told him to pass that on to the fucking psychology department. He couldn't even fucking watch the whole damn thing. So, oh wait, have I talked to you since the Joint Terrorism Task Force and the fucking campus security guy came to my house?
I haven't spoken to you about it, but I know of it. I've heard you talking to other
Oh,
people about it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I came home from having lunch and a little shopping and a pedicure with one of my female mentors in my life, and they were in my driveway, and I had quite the conversation with them.
Yeah, I mean the trouble is that it's so time consuming and taxing and emotionally draining.
To
That
explain exactly what the fuck I'm doing online.
it's a fine balancing act that one needs to maintain because if you want to fully understand it, you have
Yeah,
to detach from your sense of self, pretty much your reality, and enter the world of whatever it is that you're trying to explain to them.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
become destabilized, and now you're in Magic Land, trying to understand what this labyrinth is all about.
Right.
You
And
might
that's
you might get a
that's the
sense.
hardest. Hold on, Billy. That's the hardest part of all this because I've been collecting and I know it's counterintuitive to a lot of the folks that are like, "Oh, lived experiences don't matter," and but everybody has a fucking piece to this puzzle,
Yeah,
and collecting, because going around to all these different groups and all these, I mean, the majority of what the men say is on the same page. It's
yeah,
just they have this extra bit of fuckery that they've experienced that they're like, oh, this is the problem, the big problem, and that's the problem that they focus on. And here I come along, I'm like,
yeah.
okay, well,
Well,
now you're kind of right that this is an important piece, and it's just like this problem, and just like
I'll
this,
tell
and
you
just
I'll
like
tell you a
this.
secret. All right.
Yeah.
When you hear this is the problem, or I figured it out, I got the solution, I got the cure. No, you
Right.
don't. Why?
Right.
Because again, using the narcissist as the example here, if you try to attempt to, if you believe you think you can figure out the narcissist, you're dead wrong. You will never fully. The only way you will fully understand the narcissist is if you become the narcissist, and in which case, the narcissist that you're trying to diagnose or analyze or whatever has won. You have been corrupted, and now you are them. You are now in their world of disorder. That's the only. How can you understand the ununderstandable? You can't. The only way you can understand the lunacy is if you yourself have become a lunatic. So the more you try and figure them out and
Right.
all the pieces together, the more you jeopardize your own sanity, your own stability. You become lost in their world because you're now obsessed with trying to put all the pieces together. Now,
But I already have it all.
what helps is having breaks so that you can decompress and return to your sense of self, so that you got an anchor point to reality,
Yeah.
so that you
Well,
don't get totally
and I
lost.
have lots of checks and balances that I check in with
Right, and
to,
then the
to,
other
to
sort
help
of
me navigate that,
yeah,
like
it's
little
good. It's good.
reality tests. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I'm constantly checking
uh,
in with people. Yeah.
and another thing that is also beneficial is knowing or understanding to a point where you can be satisfied and say, yeah, I pretty much know what I need to know.
Yes.
pretty much got it figured out. I might not have it exactly, like
Yeah.
even if you wanted to sort of pin it all on one person, let's say like, I don't know, Hitler or something like that. Okay,
Yeah.
so World War II is all Hitler's fault. You
Feminist.
don't necessarily need
feminist
to
fault.
know what he
Blame
had.
feminist, Billy.
Oh, all right, but you don't necessarily
Feminism.
need to
Yeah.
know exactly what day of the week, at what time, where the stars were in the sky when this momentous tragedy happened.
Right.
You
Well,
pretty much you've narrowed it down. You've got yourself a pretty good idea. You more or less figured it out or whatever, and then sort of basically satisfied with it, because then otherwise you're running the risk of the obsession, compulsion. I need to know. I must know. I know. And this is a sign of like
no.
because of control.
See, along because the real shift in what I've been doing online was the day that Bomb Cherry, that Taylor bitch, brought me and Xavier's conversation over to Bomb Cherry's, and they started doing their little dissection, and that popped up in my algorithm. That was the day that it really starts snowballing. Like, I mean, I'd been collecting conversations and ideological infection from all around all the different echo chambers and bubbles, because they're all the same. I put them in the bitch category. I'm like, none of these fucking groups are right 100%, because you all have crazy bitches in them influencing people and causing problems. So when Bomb Cherry did that, that was my in for tracking on a micro level the macro fucking problem. So I have collected all the connection points to where all these crazy bitches and the infection started spreading and the emotional terrorism started happening.
Yeah.
That's why I know who all of these people are that are working behind the scenes. Also, I have all the documentation of when they met up with other people from the bubbles, and I've already got that.
I mean, and I mean, I think most people, like, it takes me a long time to understand people's names and their character or whatever, and that's my own sense of preservation that keeps me semi-detached. I don't really delve into drama unless it's recurring, and then I kind of twig like, well, this must be kind of important because it keeps coming up. So that's my desperation, my attempts at keeping my own sanity is by being like, what the fuck is going on? I don't know. Is it really relevant to me? I don't know.
Right. No. And most of this stuff was only really relevant. Like, I would ask specific people's opinion for their, on this specific thing and how it relates to this other thing they're working on, and that kind of stuff. But I don't think anybody really knows the whole picture.
There's sort of 2 points I want to bring here where this is, sorry, apologies yet again, I'm going to bring using the narcissist as a comparison for this discussion.
That's your right.
And unfortunately, this is a lot easier when it comes to the narcissist, because it's kind of more one-on-one, intimate, a spouse or something like that, usually, or maybe a family member or something. Now, with what you're describing, and in this more social context, it differs and it becomes more complicated. But there comes a issue of, I suppose it's like an ethical wondering, which people end up having to deal with, which is so the victim does their research, they discover what they're dealing with, and they know pretty much what they need to know. They're exhausted from staying up researching, wanting to find absolutely everything, but as try as they might, they become exhausted. Enough is enough, and they go, okay, all I need to know at the end of the day is that they're an asshole, they're not good for me, and basically that's it. So they can get their own closure eventually, instead of chasing the narcissist for it, and begin somewhat, like the road to recovery and healing or whatever. Then they wonder, but the narcissist is free to roam and cause havoc and do whatever.
Right.
It's one thing that I know, and for my own peace of mind, fine, okay. But now I've got this new problem where I feel unsettled knowing that the narcissist has basically got away with pretty much murder, or maybe not murder, but they got away with their crimes. Like there's no quite often the victim
Right.
feels like my
But that's
justice
not
is
the case
karma.
in this situation.
No, because it's a bit different because usually if someone is able to interject with the victim, they can say something like, I know it's frustrating that the narcissist is out there somewhere, probably having a good time living it up or whatever, and here you are, you're trying to repair your broken life or whatever. I know it
Right.
sucks, but like you got to appreciate the fact that at least now you're free.
Right.
Whatever's happening with the narcissist, they're a recipe for disaster, and whatever endeavors they get involved with is basically gonna go down the pan, and they're just gonna be a path of destruction wherever they go. Other people are gonna come and go into their life, and they're gonna have the same sort of it's stuff that doesn't really involve you. It doesn't involve you at all, actually, and it's not your responsibility. So basically, try not to think about it and get on with your life. You've got plenty of things to think about in terms of your recovery.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Ein's Vine, pretty straightforward, clear cut. And they go, yes, but the narcissist, like, should I warn the new boyfriend or girlfriend who is with my ex? And it's like,
Right.
no,
Right.
you
Yeah.
shouldn't,
No, they
no.
shouldn't at all.
But I
Because
feel like I
they
need to,
need
because I've
they
got this
need to work
situation.
on themselves.
Right.
Yeah. And they should just
So
avoid.
So that's like
No
a micro
contact. Yeah.
version. Now, with what you're describing on a macro, it's still micro, but at least it's a little bit more macro. More people are involved, more communities, more social networks are involved. Should we warn other groups about these feminists and stuff like that? You could try, but there's also, but it comes back to that sort of like, well, at least you know what you need to know. So you don't necessarily have to feel any guilt or obligation that you have to be warning other communities or people. I mean, if they end up getting into a bad situation and they're going to have to learn the hard way, then unfortunately that's how it is. That's not to be unsympathetic or uncaring or crass or something like that towards them, but as we know from using the narcissist as an example, usually, even if you were to approach victims or people who are being targeted, they're not going to want to listen because they're already they've already been spellbinded. They're already under the influence of the narcissist.
Right.
So you trying to warn communities or men's groups or certain individuals, if you're not careful, ends up making you look bad, and further cements the abuser's control over their target.
Right. That's why I've been very diligent, Billy. That's why I've been very diligent about only really talking to the people that come to me with the problem, that have already been, like, I wasn't going around fucking warning everybody. I mean, there's a couple specific people that are also watching what's going on that I'm like, hey, shit, this person's been infected.
Yeah, I mean,
now. Because I see it more like a infection and a terrorism.
Well,
so,
yeah, I mean, those are like moments of like retribution, and they could be somewhat of a relief. But don't put your eggs in the basket and hope that day will come. It might not.
No. I just like specific people that are like, hey, what's going on? This thing's happening over here.
Yeah,
like, look at this. I'm like, hey, just be aware.
What's more likely
is why, and
what's more likely to have happened already? Like, because most people like to think they're on the ball and they're up to date or whatever, but you're working, or not working with, but I mean, like you're dealing with people who are subconsciously driven via their needs, their compulsions to act and behave in certain ways. so their instinctual directives have a head start on their actual thought processes.
No, the people that are contacting me are very grounded and very
No, I'm
disciplined
talking
and very
about like the abuser, like the feminists. So before
Oh
the feminists
yeah.
even realize, even before they have that concocted plan, like I'm gonna do the smear campaign, they've already subconsciously started the smear campaign.
Oh yeah, no, I watched them. I watched when it
And
happened.
one of the common things they'll probably say would be like blanket statement out to whoever will be listening. Hey, watch out! There's
Yeah.
a good mother person out there,
Oh yeah.
and he's on the warpath. And you don't believe me? You wait till it happens, and then you'll believe me. And
Yeah.
then here you come along on the warpath, and then the target is like, I was warned about this happening. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
right. Oh, I'm gonna go
But
back to the person who told me this was gonna happen
you know what's weird?
and trust him.
In that situation, the majority of the places that these crazy bitches went to warn people about me, I had already been there first. And by me sharing them, it drew them to go warn these people. So, I mean, they've literally been doing everything that I've directed them to do at this point. Like because I know how they operate, that's why I could like not even pay attention to a channel for 3 months and then go back later and find the key points where I know where people showed up based on
Even
the
though
timeline.
you might have got the first shot in or whatever, the first blow, um,
It's not a blow. It's not a blow.
well, you beat them to the punch, kind of thing. Even though you might have anticipated what
Yeah.
might be happening.
Yeah.
Sorry to say this, but it can't compete with the abuser because you're coming from a place of integrity, from decency.
But I'm not competing with them.
Right,
I'm just documenting their behavior. That's it.
right. But
I
still,
am
this doesn't compare this
I'm
in
catching
terms
them with their fucking pants down.
in this kind of psychological and spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
What you bring to the table in this sense
Yeah.
does not compare. You're in a figuratively kind of way of speaking, like
Yeah.
you're trying to battle with sticks, and they've brought in military grade weapons.
No. No.
It's a different caliber of arsenal.
They're in a little cage pretending to battle with whatever, and I'm just observing them.
But you're dealing with entities which are
Yeah.
geared for manipulation,
Yeah.
exploitation, control,
Yeah.
gaslighting,
Yeah.
confusion.
Which works
All
on men.
these are very potent tools.
Yeah. Which does
You're
work on
working,
men.
right?
It doesn't work on me though. And that's what they're trying that's who they're ultimately trying to destroy is me. Personally.
Yeah, but indirectly they can do like so. If they come across a target that's too difficult to conquer, then
Yeah.
how can they conquer the target? They'll isolate them. They'll triangulate. They'll cut off their supply, or
Yeah.
network, or support structure.
Yeah. Yeah. My network and support structure is a lot fucking bigger than theirs.
Well, I mean, yeah, you do get instances where it's just the narcissist has bitten off more they can chew or whatever, and they go into a scramble mess for damage control, and we've seen this with certain people in the population. But even then, in terms of now, I know you're not competing and you don't see this as a winning or losing, really. I mean,
Well, no, they're gonna lose big time.
yes,
They're
but
gonna lose big time.
kind of yes, but kind of no, because
Really?
like you can never use a narcissist as the microcosm of the narcissistic
This
world.
isn't a narcissist. This is a
I know,
band of crazy hyena bitches, and it's
yes,
the
but
sisterhood, and they're all
they're
feminists.
utilizing they use it because it's a viable defense mechanism, last resort. So they might not be clinically diagnosed as narcissists, but
They're
from my
all this stuff.
my observations, it's
Yeah.
pretty. It's lining up pretty tightly.
Yeah.
You can't defeat them because denial, deflect accountability. If you
Oh,
punish them
no,
or
Billy. They're hanging themselves. They're defeating themselves. They're
yeah, yeah.
self-destructing.
Well, this is what that happens to the narcissist. Yes, but
Yeah. Yeah.
they're not going to say like, oh, I did this to myself. I'm hanging myself. They'll say, no, you did this to me.
Hey, I
You're the
will
one
fucking
who
take
were
credit
linking
if
up.
that's what they want to
Right.
do. If
So
they want to admit that I fucking beat them and
yeah,
that they
yeah.
didn't
I mean,
actually beat themselves, I
at
don't
the end
know
of
if
the
they
day,
could do that.
it's like technically, like, you look at like their life. It's like, yes, well, excuses as you may,
Yeah.
victimized as you might be or whatever. At the end of the
Yeah.
day,
You did it to yourself.
your life is
bitch.
just shattered in tatters or whatever. So like we tally up the score here, it looks like you've lost. But as far as they're concerned, it's like, no. Well, I lost because you cheated. Oh, good mother must have done something
Yeah.
to make sure I lose. Like, because I'm so great, this can't have happened normally otherwise. Whatever excuse, magical thinking.
Yeah.
Or I'm like, the reason why she came after me so vigorously is because I must be such a danger and threat because I'm so great and important.
Right.
There's plenty of ways they can kind of squirrel brain this.
They can lie to themselves all they want.
Well, that's fundamentally what they've been doing that since day one, and it becomes
And
more
everybody else.
exaggeration, multi-layered lies and lies and lies. So it comes back to like the authentic person, like you and I know what's up, kind of thing. Like we don't need to sort of like lie to anyone about it or whatever. If they want to do all these lies, fine, so be it. Now it takes them out of the equation. It takes us out of the equation.
Mhm.
What's left behind is the audience or the bystanders or the collateral damage. Do they buy into it or
Right. The collateral damage.
whatever? Because they become the saving grace for the abuser.
Right.
They're the enablers or whatever. So they
are the
become
enablers.
much more
Exactly.
important as a lifeline.
Well,
So
and I hear it specifically from the MGTOW community. The guys saying how it's the white knights that are the biggest problem. Okay, if you want to say that, I blame the crazy bitches that terrorize these poor men more than I blame these men. So I offer forgiveness for the men who got involved. Like, they're not my problem. It's the fucking crazy women that are my job to sort out. Like, I feel like the men can help those men sort them out. Like what you were talking about earlier, the healing thing.
You
These
kind of
people
got
need to be
to
healed.
the movie Matrix, right? Have you seen that?
I still haven't watched all those.
You need to see that. Well, okay, so the general population are considered potential agents, the bad guys of the story. So for all intents and purposes, you have to treat the general population, those who are not red pilled or awake, as potential enemies, even though they might not technically be enemies. Because so in terms of flying monkeys, right? So you might have sympathy, relationships or whatever with flying monkeys. There might be buddies and friends, but if they're a flying monkey and you know about it, like to the narcissist or abuser or whatever, they're a henchman or whatever to the abuser, then unfortunately they're going to have to incur the same kind of fate. Now they have a chance where they can wake up and realize, well, what I'm doing is bad and I don't like this and I'm going to push back.
Yeah.
Which would be their saving grace in a way.
Yeah.
But that's not for you to decide.
No, that's up to them.
That's right. Yeah. But as far as how you interact with them, unless that happens,
if they're infected, I'm staying the fuck away from them.
That's right. So there you go. That's the thing. So back to the white knights and the controllers, the feminists or the crazy bitches or whatever. Both parties really share the responsibility. I mean, they're both up to no good.
Yeah.
Whether or not the White Knight wants to wake up and smell the coffee is the hope.
Yeah.
Because as far as the crazy bitches are concerned, there is no hope. You know, they're
Right.
not going to have an epiphany or change their ways. They
Oh
enjoy
no.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
They
No,
are.
they need to be punished first. And while these guys are doing the campaign for the crazy bitches, they're never going to receive their proper punishment. The men are actually going to take
Well,
the
that's
brunt
that can be
of that fucking punishment.
that could be a critical moment in the White Knight's psyche.
Yeah.
They could either see what's going on and be like, those crazy bitches are being punished for a reason,
Yes.
and I don't. Now I see the errors in my way, kind of thing.
Yes.
So that their souls are saved. Or they go, oh my queen, oh I'm gonna say, and they double down as a White Knight, and they sacrifice themselves to try and save the queen or whatever it is.
See, and I feel like I rely on the men that are sane, that can think objectively about this and look at the situation for what it is, that actually have care for other men. I'm kind of relying on them to reel them in and being like, hey, so we're gonna help sort you out over here. Like, this is a safe space just for men, free of crazy bitches. That's why I'm like, get the crazy bitches, get the fucking women out of MGTOW spaces that don't fucking want anything to do with them, because they need those spaces. They need them, Billy.
Yeah. I mean, when we look at the trauma, the emotional damage, the turmoil, it's so I don't want to sound too pessimistic, but you know, the odds are against.
Yes.
It's miraculous. I mean, this is why when they talk statistically about people who recover, like in parentheses, you know, like healed or whatever, it's a fraction, tiny percent will heal.
Wow.
A lot will spend the whole life just trying to heal
because they keep getting re-injured constantly.
Yeah,
Re-injured.
New wounds, opening up old wounds.
Yes.
Other wounds start coming because, like, you have problems with your ex, and then you have to do a bit of soul searching, and then you look into your own upbringing, and then you realize that your problems aren't just to do with your ex. Your problems are to do with the way you've been brought up in your parenting. You know, so it becomes it's Pandora's box it's been opened up. And then to have the pretty much like a miracle to be able to self-parent and do the work, to be committed to do the work, to see it through.
You need help first.
Right. There's a lot of different variables, and that's why I say like a miracle. Like, it's miraculous that people. I mean, one of my black pill moments would be to say that, you know, we can't ever really 100% have the expectation of being healed. That's a bit grand, and
I don't know. Well, I think people can build up such a resilience by overcoming.
Good enough.
They become pretty unstoppable. So
yeah. No. I'm not saying that you don't get strong people who rise up from their traumas and their past and from the pain. You know, they rise like a phoenix from the ashes or something. No, I mean, there's often a little kind of rhyme that goes, once you survive, you thrive. That's the idea. And MGTOW have that as well. They do. It's another parallel with the narcissistic terminology, where you know, once you walk away, you know, your life supposedly like magnifies and becomes it blossoms or whatever. So, but the idea that, well, maybe it's a tangent or a topic for another time, but the idea of being 100% healed is a bit, you know, high expectations. You know, like you can get by with, I don't know, 70%, 80%. I don't know what the number would be, but you know, you don't have to like seek perfection. And to say you're going to be 100% healed compared to what you were before, because what you were before, you didn't know.
But you know what, Billy? I don't know if I agree with that, because if you're in a situation where you're getting fucking poked and poked and poked with a knife, say it's a little knife, and you're getting cut here, and you don't have a chance because you're in that environment, you don't have a chance for any of those wounds. And say another fucking crazy bitch comes over and pulls off the fucking scab and is poking at your
Right.
fucking wound. Like, as long as you're in that environment, those wounds aren't going to heal. If you
No.
remove the person from that environment and stop the fucking crazy bitchery and the assault and all the things that keep opening up these wounds and allow that person to heal, they will develop the scar tissue. And that will be harder to fucking poke next time through the
Yeah.
scar tissue.
Yeah. I mean, that's a
From a
if
biological
you're lucky.
perspective.
If you're lucky. Yeah. I mean, obviously, what's the word? Like distance from your attacker or your oppressor or your jailer, your abuser is step one. To get out of proximity.
Yes.
That's part of no contact.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yes.
go your own way. And then you have a chance. Hopefully, this is like another moment of fingers crossed. Hopefully, you'll be able to start healing.
Yes.
The next part will be to stop self-inflicting harm, because there's a good chance
Right.
that'll be
Well, if
taught.
you keep putting yourself in the situations where you're going to get stabbed, you know you're going to get stabbed.
Right.
Yeah, but that's
So
why I fully
you learn.
back getting fucking women off a lot of the channels that are men only
Yes,
spaces.
yes,
So the men don't have to worry about fucking getting stabbed or
Well, definitely, and
Yeah.
I mean, from a therapeutical sort of stance or whatever, from what I'm observing, and the dire state that mental health is in. I mean, guys,
Yeah.
man, like,
No, it's fucking bad. Actually, will you
it's
speak about that for a minute? I need a pee, Billy.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, I know you can monologue on this for sure.
Well, I want to make it sound hopeful, but
It is. No, make it sound hopeful. Remember, I'm the wall.
for there to be, I think we can all agree. We aspire. We care about our brothers, our fathers, our sons, and daughters. And even our mothers to some extent, our sisters. And we want well for people, usually, anyway. So, for us to progress and move forward, to heal and recover, as it were, to find closure, a sense of completion, a sense of self, a meaning to life and who we are and what's the whole point of it all, requires, I think we'd all agree, requires an element and a degree of courage, bravery, not fearlessness. Having fear is a good thing. Having emotions is a good thing. I think we are, with this black and white attitude, this flippant attitude of like, oh, you're an emotional thinker, that's bad, is too blasé, because it's important to have emotions. What is the master level of skill here is being able to regulate those emotions, to utilize them, to use them in a executive kind of manner, where how have self-control and self-mastery. And so to devoid yourself of emotions is in part denying aspects of yourself, that if you want completion, if you want to be whole again and you want your life back in your hands, etc., you're going to need those emotions. I mean, otherwise, how are you going to feel what it's like to live, to breathe, and have appreciation for life? How can you have gratitude if you have no feeling towards it?
Right.
So
But how do you even have the space to identify what you're actually feeling anyway, unless you have a space to do that or somebody to help you do
yeah,
that?
yes.
I mean,
Or if your emotions are being heightened and now you're in a state of hysteria because everyone
yeah.
around you is losing their fucking nut.
Right.
So,
Well,
you know,
but that's
so-
where I see feminism has fucked our entire society, and that's where I
right.
see women aren't doing their damn jobs. Because like
Um,
Psych has said before, like men are the head, women are the heart, right? Like if the heart is failing to do its fucking job of protecting itself and protecting other fucking hearts, like the head can't even fucking think straight.
right. Yes, and so there needs to be this union, this integration, this balance. Um, and again, like this veering away from black and white thinking.
Yeah.
And it requires effort. It requires, I already mentioned, like the courage and bravery and the sort of the hardship of pain, you know.
Yeah.
And it's very simplistic to say, oh, pain is a teacher or whatever. It sounds easy, but um, to fully internalize what these simple words truly mean, the significance of them, etc., will help people on their way. Now, like you were saying, that if you're surrounded in an environment where where emotions are running high,
Yeah.
and there you are being told to now regulate your own emotions or control your emotions or to recognize what's going on. I mean, yes, you're right. It's very confusing, disorientating,
Yeah.
daunting, um, perplexing. Did I already say confusing? Um, and a lot of these emotions are likely distorted emotions.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I suppose maybe a tool here may be something like meditation or breathing
See,
techniques. You know, it sounds a little bit hippy dippy.
that is hippy dippy, Billy. And as a woman, I will let you know that talking with people that have your best interest at heart is the best way to get through that shit.
Yes, talk therapy is very popular these days, and it does help someone navigate the minefield, or the abyss of their emotions.
Yeah.
It does help to have like a beacon of light to help guide you through it or something.
Yeah.
To which
Or
case,
at least a map of the territory of where the landmines are so you can fucking at least avoid those.
right? In which case, like then maybe one of the earlier steps will be to take on the idea of like, look, I need to be responsible for my self-care. As
Yeah.
part of that self-care, I need to be a bit more selective with whose company I share.
Yes.
So instead of surrounding myself with a whole bunch of people because I feel lonely and this brotherhood and we're all in here together, maybe that's not actually helping me.
Right.
And what I need to do is work out amongst these gentlemen who has what it is that can help guide me,
Yes.
and just spend a more intimate time
Yes.
rather than social time with people.
Right.
And with this intimacy, with a not necessarily like one, I mean maybe just like a smaller number of people at least,
Yeah, like the small
you
panels.
you can then find yourself and your own voice amongst others,
Yeah.
instead of being drowned out in a fragmented sea of personalities. What's that, Avatar, Billy? That's a Harley Quinn. Yeah, sorry, I don't know. That was from the last Bleeding Edge.
Well, it's perfect for the boot camp.
Well, yeah. Harley Quinn needs a lot of mental help.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So I mentioned it a couple of times already, like the hysteria. I think it's something for people to really think about what's going on lately, what they're seeing around them, and to try and calm it down a bit. Because it's like a domino effect. If one person starts getting hysterical, then the next person is getting hysterical, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's the end of the world, and we're all going to die. Let's all run outside and buy ice cream or whatever.
Right.
And then they're standing outside wondering, like, why the hell did I buy this ice cream for? You know. So we need to slow it down. We're not in a rush, are we? Like,
Nope.
Men of the Manosphere and MGTOW, like, we're meant to have the luxury of time, really.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be moving at our own pace. So if you feel as though people are pulling you, or you're being drawn again at a speed or a pace that you're not comfortable with, you don't have to necessarily go with that. You know, you're meant to be the captain of your own ship, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So this brings the control back into, to some degree, back into your hands, instead of giving your autonomy to someone else to control for you. As tempting as that might be, you might want someone to pull you along, to because we're talking about like a guiding light in the dark abyss of emotion. So in some ways, you want the responsibility of your care to be in someone else's hands. You want to be cared for like a child again, and your parents guide you. And that's, again, we're having this balance between the black and the white, where at first that might be necessary. Watch out you don't become too reliant on it, where now it becomes a expectation, and then
Yes.
you're not happy with the results. Whereas, like, because you've given over control, you've given over the responsibility of your life to someone else, of course you're not going to be satisfied or happy. It's not your life anymore.
Right.
So you need to be able to take the guidance, take the parentified advice people may give you, and make use of it for internalize it, integrate it, so it becomes your knowledge, your skill set for you to utilize.
Yeah.
And then you have to, like, build the experience, stand on your own 2 feet maybe for the first
Yeah,
time.
because you got to use it. Like you have this
Right.
new tool, but you can't just keep it put away. You got to use it so you know how to use it.
That's right, yeah. And you know, you can't have the expectation, like, you've been taught about the tool, you've been handed the tool.
Yeah.
But
And
because
you have to,
mom
you
and
might
dad
have to be
are,
shown how to use the tool also, and then maybe,
well, you
yeah,
might have to use a tool in a way that you weren't shown. So you need to
yeah.
have some initiative.
Well, but as long as you understand the fundamentals of the tool and what it does, and really understand that principle, you can use it for whatever you want. If you master that
Yeah.
basic, you can use it so
Yeah.
many different ways. Yeah.
And I think one of the maybe it's hanging on, clinging on, like, mummy, daddy, don't leave me, kind of thing. Whereas,
Yeah.
like, they've been handed the tool, but they still want their guardian, their caretaker, to do it for them, whatever it is that they want.
Well, it's good to pay attention to how people are using tools, and if they're struggling, maybe, and maybe I look at that because as a mother, and being able to teach people stuff, and I mean, you just don't hand a 2-year-old a sharp knife and let them run around unsupervised. You gotta, like, have them close to you, maybe guide their hand. It's a sharp knife.
Yeah.
And not that, well, I don't know, I'm trying to think. Yeah, cooking maybe, or
They've got 10 fingers. They can
fishing,
spell.
or
They can
yeah,
spell the
tons
digits.
of things. But you know, I mean, when it's a new tool and it's dangerous. See, that's
Oh,
what I see that the red pill community and the whole PUA shit has really done a disservice,
well, this is it.
and used a lot of these tools, these psychology and behavior tools. They just give these people these tools and they fucking go around hurting people with them.
Yes, or they included themselves because like it's like, here you go, Junior. Here's a machete. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
neat. I'm gonna start
yeah,
juggling. It's like,
yeah,
what? You know,
yeah, yeah,
hey guys, check it out.
yeah,
They call me one hand machete.
yeah. On an emotionally and mentally unstable, fucking developmentally retarded person, hand them a fucking machete. Good job. And just let them go.
But the emotional. So going back to the emotional part, because um, I don't know if it's like a double-edged sword, double-edged machete. Because so we already kind of covered moments ago about uh, having a preference for intimacy rather than socializing, maybe, you know, at least,
Right.
so that you can get your bearings and your identity, your voice amongst a small number rather than drowned out in a sea of personalities.
Yeah.
But also be aware that there is a temptation to want to be in the larger social group. There is a almost like a masochistic, well, not really masochistic, but more of a desire of some kind to want to be lost, because I don't know myself, because I'm yet to know who I am. I'm scared to know who I am, so I would prefer to be lost in a sea of voices than to be in an intimate interaction and be presented with myself for the first time. And that's why relationships with men and women or whatever, homosexual or whatever, uh, romantic relationships can be quite intimidating and exciting, but intimidating first of all because it's like, oh, I don't know who I'm gonna be with. Is this gonna work? It's I have to trust. I'm vulnerable, and it's like, yes,
Yeah.
this is part of why love or intimacy in that way is kind of like a rush, and we have um, hormones and chemical reactions go at dopamine and whatever else is going on, um, and we're on a high with it, etc. So a presence of mind, because for a man who is, I suppose the same could apply to a woman, but we're mainly dealing with men's health here at the moment, at least.
Yeah.
Um, for a man newly embarking on such a voyage of self-discovery, they might not know which way they're gonna or how they're gonna feel towards intimacy versus a social uh, environment. Um, so with a presence of mind, you can probably, hopefully, get a sensation of which way you're being which is drawing you more strongly, or
Yeah.
which you're being drawn towards more, and utilizing some self-discipline with the self-responsibility or self-care, you'll be able to hopefully catch yourself and be like, no, 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 this, maybe I shouldn't be um, in this group, or maybe I shouldn't be with this particular person. I need to find someone who resonates with me better, or
Yeah.
who can guide me better, because this person is a Fruity Loop or something like that, or
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
um, because there's a good chance you might make mistakes. You made lots of mistakes leading up to this point in time, and it's
Oh
okay to
yeah.
make mistakes. We learn from them, etc.
Yeah.
Um, so we're building upon a broader array of awareness, a little bit here, a little bit there. We're working on this and working on that, and gradually, we um, maturation, we mature, we grow. Like when we physically grow, it's not like your arms grow before your legs and your
Right.
head. You grow uniformly,
Yeah.
like all in one.
Hopefully.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully.
I
You
mean,
know what?
that's amusing, but
I see that. I see just based on the outcome, I see people emotionally developing not uniformly if they're
yes.
lying. If they're lying, they'll like develop
Well,
one
yeah. I mean, and sometimes it's
and
like a
be completely
backtrack.
oblivious to the rest.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I mean, it's why we have self-reflecting, where you reflect, you review, you process, you digest, you go back, you recalibrate, you
Yeah.
revise, and make
Yeah.
new additions, as it
Yeah.
were. Um, I mean,
Well,
that's a,
and I always go to my
but
checks and balances, my
I mean, that's,
networking checks and balances,
you know, but
because I do a lot of um, deep diving in the pits of fucking hell, man. I need to make sure that when I come out of that shit, I'm recalibrated, so I don't get any on me. Like, so I'm always checking with people, like on
yeah,
my
I mean,
my behavior and my reactions to stuff, and just to make sure I'm still on what, standing on my square or whatever.
yeah, I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes these like revelations might reveal something a bit distasteful or something you don't quite like,
Yeah.
and that's an achievement in of itself, really, as a cause for celebration. Because when you compare that to other people who are oblivious, have no awareness, and avoidant of such discoveries. I mean, for
Right.
you to acknowledge that, oh crikey, um, I didn't realize I have double standards or something, or I'm a bit hypocritical. To have that realization and the opportunity to then decide what you're going to do with that. Maybe it's something that you could work on, or maybe it's something you go, yeah, okay, I see, I've got it. I'm not going to change it. I'm just going to be a hypocritical tosser then going forward.
Right.
Whatever it is. But at least you've made the power of decision. Because again, as another example, to add to the experience of developing your self control, even though
Yeah.
you might not actually be doing any self control, if you're just going to allow it to persist, but still,
Yeah.
you made a decision. I mean, like, no decision is still a decision. Making decisions is a form of responsibility. You're taking ownership, you're taking responsibility, you're taking accountability.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, yes, you might not share this information with anyone else, but you can't, now that you've had this awareness of what you're like, particularly things that you don't like, you can't have this deniability about it and pretend you don't know about it.
Right.
You
Right.
know, you
Because
know,
once somebody tells you, you don't have the luxury of claiming, oh, I didn't know. No, somebody told you and you fucking ignored them. That was actually your bad. Like,
yeah,
somebody smarter than you told you what you were doing was fucked up. That's kind of where I go back to with Alice. Like, I've been very patient with that crazy cunt for months, trying to tell her that she's fucking wrong. And instead of listening to the smartest person that has spent the most time trying to tell that crazy fucking cunt to stop, she does the opposite because she's a defiant little bitch.
defiance, yeah,
Super defiant. Yeah.
compulsions.
No, I don't think she understands hierarchy, and see, and I don't understand that. Like, growing up and just living my whole entire fucking life, I always rely on people that are smarter than me or more aware of something in a specific category, and I would seek out that information. And if I came across somebody in my life that I saw was an authority that I could learn from, Like, and they said something, I actually took that and I would be like, whew, okay, let me, because there's a reason that person took the time to say that, right?
Yeah.
And if it wasn't just a bullshit try to tear you down thing, if they actually took the time to explain
Yeah.
anything,
There's a
I would
evaluation.
respect that and I would value that. And I'd be
Yeah.
like, okay, this is something that I know I'm going to use sometime. There's something there because that person took the time to do that for me. That's how I looked at it. So for somebody to just to blow that off and listen to fucking complete idiots just because they also agree with them is kind of a weird concept for me.
Well, you're approaching it from a point of view of logically,
Yeah.
you know, intellectually, like what is
Yeah.
being said to you is has a value, has a importance, it matters.
Yeah.
It's something for you to digest and ponder about. And what you're comparing it to is something that is driven, being pulled along by the emotional needs.
Right.
The emotional needs is before the person that you're discussing here.
Right. Right. But emotional needs, I don't know if maybe emotional wants. Maybe I'll agree to that because actual needs are the opposite of what these people want because they're dodging accountability and they just want to feel good because they feel so bad. They don't want to feel the bad thing first so then they later can feel good. They want to feel good now. And so they want to lie and keep perpetuating bullshit that ultimately will lead to them continuing to feel
Right.
bad. But they don't understand that.
I mean, and that's why, um, when you join the dots and lay it out for them, it usually doesn't make a logical or reasonable sense why they're doing such things. It's like, because that's not the objective. The objective is to satisfy those emotional wants and needs. In which case, it does it perfectly fine.
I don't know if it satisfies a need though, because if it
I tried.
did, they wouldn't continue doing it.
Well,
That's why I
no.
think it more
Uh,
satisfies a want.
it tries. Yes, you're right. It tries to, but, um, usually what they'll describe it as is insatiable,
Yeah.
like a bucket with a hole in it. So no matter how much they're trying to fill their bucket of self-esteem, it's continually draining out. So they can never really have contentment.
Yeah.
They can never, which means when we
Because they
extrapolate,
didn't patch the hole to begin with.
yeah, but they don't have the skill set or the tools or the ability to do it
Right. But that's
out, you know. And the thing is, they're unable to fill that bucket of self-esteem themselves. They need other people to do it. So this is this scramble, like, please rescue me, please, be my friend, please, do as I say, or whatever, however, like the fuel and supply, or however it is, they're they're getting their enablers or flying monkeys or whoever to fill this bucket desperately to try and, fill it to the top. But but if we extrapolate that further, it means that they can never really be happy, because the moment that they have happiness, let's say they won the lottery, um, the next fleeting moment they're discontent again,
right.
or it doesn't satisfy them. And this is why, in part, when women have such an obsession with money and career path, and they want salary and they want bonus and they want pay raise after pay raise after pay raise,
Right.
it's insatiable. There's
Right.
no limit.
Right.
um, and that goes out further, where it's like they want the six sixes in a guy, or they got all these other entitled expectations. It's like,
Right.
woman, aren't you satisfied? You got to have the bag, you got to have this, you got to have whatever it is.
Well,
uh,
Billy, they're queens, they're princesses. They
right,
deserve all these things, is the mindset that they're operating from.
right. And so really what ends up happening, this is so secondary be entitled. I think. Well, maybe I might be wrong, but because of the insatiable appetite, and it has that addictive kind of quality and aspect attached to it.
Yeah.
Then entitlement as a secondary, sort of like a justification, comes along. I might be wrong about that. I have to sort of ponder over it a little bit more. I mean, it might be a separate thing, just in conjunction. But at least as I'm rambling, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Billy's a brain surgeon, so he likes autopsies most.
Yeah, I'm trying to transplant a rat's brain into a human body.
Yeah,
Now
that's how we're gonna fix all these crazy riches, because at least rats fucking can learn shit. They're not as defiant. I mean, and rat brains are so used to, thinking a little piece of cheese is such high value that I think that'll have to be the.
Yeah, I mean, the trick is finding a human with a rat-sized brain.
Well,
then it's a straight swap.
Yeah.
So I forgot how we got onto this point, or this area of insatiable, right? What bucket with self-esteem holding it? I mean, all this sort of stuff, it all kind of connects, overlaps, etc. So with this draining bucket, is desperation, is survival mode. Oh my god, my bucket is constantly draining out. They're worried every moment of their life where they're going to get the replenishment from. No, so they can't even think about tomorrow. That's partly why they're so impulsive as well.
Right.
And survivalistic mode is such a devastating position to, even to figuratively speak, like to find yourself in. I mean, you're not really finding yourself at all in survivalistic mode. You're instinct, you're animalistic, if anything.
They're lizard brain.
Yeah.
SKC calls it what? Eat, sleep, fight, bust. They're animalistic tendencies.
Well, and this, I'm trying not to tie it. I'm going to end up doing it anyway. But like tying it into like sexual remarks is part of that survivalistic modality.
Yeah, that's PUA stuff though too.
Right. Yes, and the fascination, the colorful kind of language, the way it's spoken, the quips, the remarks, the humor,
it's a super cross of fucking normal people's boundaries for sure.
The intrusiveness. Well, yeah. Well, before we go into that, then, so with the survivalistic, again, reiterating the level of hysteria, because that's sort of like the gateway. Well, the hysteria will be the gateway to you entering survivalistic mode, because now you're frantically, oh my god, what on earth is going on? I need to piece it all together because my world has been flipped upside down. So there you go, bingo, you're in survival mode, and now the floodgates have opened, and you've got a whole bunch of other problems coming your way.
See, and I don't know, is it survival mode or is it addiction mode? Because I noticed a lot of the PUAs are like, there's some kind of porn addiction, sex addiction, fucking, I don't know. I see that in that bubble a lot.
So sexual
it's like a constant dissatisfaction, so it's always on the mind or something.
Well, animalistically speaking, right? You live, you eat, you sleep, you shag. die kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, each of those events is pretty mundane apart from sex, but it's one of the categories of the part of to reproduce,
Yeah.
to survive and to pass on your genes, etc. So sex is
It's a
a,
biological imperative.
right,
Yeah.
and linked to survival as well.
Yeah.
Because if no one has sex, then you're not going to, your genes aren't going to survive. It ends with you.
Yeah.
So it's important. It's not just like some kinky, fetishy kind of pleasurable. It serves a purpose.
Yeah.
Um,
But
and
people
I
take it there.
and this isn't like some kind of, well, yes, because they're in survival mode. So all their kind of like their baseline, like a hum in the back of their head, even though they're talking to like me and you, like right now, kind of we're talking about whatever it is in
Yeah.
the back of their head. They'd be like, am I hungry? Do I need to go? Am I tired? Do I need to go sleep? Do I need to take a shit?
Right.
And what's the other one? What about some sex? So they've got these
Right.
kind of survival. We talked about emotional needs before. Well, these would be like survival needs that are constantly in the back of their mind
So
because they're in
that's
survival
well,
mode.
yeah, so that's why they can literally listen to hours and hours and hours of stuff, but because they're so set on listening for key words that they can totally drown out the rest of the context and think
Right.
about other bullshit. Okay,
That,
that's why they
well,
don't fucking listen.
yes, and there's more to it as well
Yeah,
because so even though they're having conversations, those conversations are superficial.
yeah,
They're not really the true uh, authentic person having a discussion with you.
right.
In the back of their mind, they're preoccupied with those emotional needs and survivalistic needs. Are my
Mm,
survivalistic needs being met? So when they do make these remarks, like my nutsack is hanging like a space hopper or whatever,
right.
then they're actually being honest. That's them. That's their emotional side speaking out honestly. It might say something silly and vulgar or whatever,
Yeah,
but this is the real them. This is what's really occupying their mind, and then now being able to express it, which is why, if you notice, like if they have a long conversation, I don't even want to say that long, but a intellectual conversation,
yeah,
it becomes exhausting
yes,
because you have to keep up this um, pretense, this
yeah,
facade, these
yeah,
social norms. There are rules, and I have to read your body language because I can see what you're on camera,
yeah,
and you have to look at my undulating speech bubble or whatever,
yeah.
and you're picking up on the internet. I mean, this is effort,
Well,
and these
yeah, but
are
for people that are used to it, it's not
well,
really.
for intellectual people as well, yes, they can
Yeah,
set aside their emotions and
yeah,
they can set aside thoughts of sex or whatever. But for
yeah.
someone who is in a survivalistic mode or mindset
Right.
where they can't have it, they're not using higher brain functions or intellectual brain functions, they're reduced down to instinctual brain functions, then
So, oh, okay. So, Billy, what you're really trying to say is I need to develop another channel that's like Crazy Bitch Kindergarten.
yeah. I
Okay.
mean,
Okay.
simple minds will be more occupied with instinctual instinctual survival needs. So simple minds will be thinking about sex a lot more. They'll be preoccupied with
Right.
things like sex and food.
Yeah.
Um, um,
Or dominance.
whereas someone who is more intellectually minded
Yeah.
will have a better sense of security, so they can kind of relax more. They're not in
Oh, yeah.
survival mode,
Yeah.
and as a result, they have the privilege or luxury to be able to use to explore more, like
Or
intellectual topics and subject matter, and they can set aside their instinctual needs.
privilege or luxury. I don't like that.
Well,
That's
but
fucking
yeah,
earned, man. In today's society, a lot of that shit is earned.
well, philosophy is in term if we're being barbaric. I mean, to have the opportunity to philosophize to explore psychological endeavors and have these discussions is a bit of a perk or a luxury in a way.
I don't know. I don't know. I think
Well,
people that are able to will.
okay, but we can
Maybe okay,
take
they
that
have the
part.
luxury, but why are people able to? It's not that they've had a luxurious path, obviously, because if they had, they wouldn't be able to even do that.
All right, maybe I'm romanticizing by saying that, or making it sound a
Like it's
like
privilege. It's an
right.
earned fucking privilege.
I mean,
See,
it's
that ties
okay.
into the
All right,
SJW stuff
I'll
that I don't
rephrase.
like.
All right, I'll rephrase it maybe into something a bit more palatable. How about it's a um, to be able to have intellectual discourse and discussions and explorations.
You
Um,
have to have the qualifications for one. You have to,
I'm trying to tie in the word discipline in there
yeah,
somewhere. But
you have to.
it's something that more simpler minds and
Oh yeah,
minds that
fucking
are
retards can't do
trapped
it.
in
Yeah,
in survivalistic because because if you're in fight or flight situation, survival mode, danger's all around you, you're impulsive, you don't know if you're going to die next minute kind of thing. You know, you're not going to be wondering what's the meaning of life. You'll be dead just by the time you ask that question. You know, you want to know where's danger and how do I escape or something. You want to bring it down to basics kind of thing.
yeah. But in today's society, Billy, nobody's really worried like that. You know?
Maybe I'm not maybe in an exaggerated extreme
Yeah.
sense, but the biological like urges or prerogatives of survival mode still exist. You know,
Yeah, but
it can maybe be masked better than it once did, or something like that. But the idea that these people, um, there's a good chance that they might be a bit frantic because of impulsivity. They
well,
might have
because they're hysterical,
um,
because they're crazy
hysterical,
bitchified.
right?
Yeah.
And they're desperate. So
Oh yeah.
poor decision making. So they're not really pausing for thought. They're just going to go with kind of instinctual gut feelings. Um,
Right.
so then
Which,
they
if you're
kind
a
of
crazy
scram.
bitch, you can't
Right.
trust
I mean,
that
look how they
because what
behave when it,
you're.
right, but look how they behave when it's like damage control. It's a scramble. It's
Yeah.
frantic.
Yeah. Yeah. But if they're in crazy bitch mode, if they've been infected, it's literally the opposite. Like they're projecting what they're doing onto other people. So see that's where I'm trying to find the switch. The switch that gets them out of crazy bitch mode and gets them to realize that you're literally you've been for the past 6 months blaming what you're doing on other people and you're wrong.
Well, there's a couple of. I mean, if there's enablers or
Well, and
neighborhoods,
I do blame the enablers a lot too because they should fucking know better. Because the people I see enabling
yeah,
these
yeah.
crazy cunts are smarter.
I mean, what you're hoping for when you talk about like a switch,
Yeah,
I think is you're looking for like the mortification
yeah,
where they've burned all the bridges. They've got no support network anymore. They basically hit the wall. Um,
yeah,
they're elderly now usually,
right.
and maybe then they might realize that, oh crap, I've been pardon the language, but a bit of a cunt all my life, sort of thing.
But
But
Billy,
then,
Billy, hold on 1 second. In our society, would we allow men to use their physical fucking strength and superiority to physically harm people the way we let women do. I mean, that's the line that I don't see, because if somebody was running around fucking hitting people physically, not emotionally terrorizing or mentally terrorizing people, which are women's superpowers, right? Versus men's.
Yeah.
Would we allow people to be doing this in a physical way? We don't. We have all the laws put in place that protect people from doing that. We don't have any of the laws put in place that protect people from women doing that.
Well, I mean, it might be, but it's very rarely. I know what you mean, and I get it.
Nobody used them.
But you know, yeah, they get away with. I mean, come on, let's be
With
honest.
everything.
How many murders have they probably got away with? You know,
Millions. Millions and millions and millions.
including abortion as well.
Yeah.
In those sort of statistics.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's where I'm like, there has to be a switch for people, because for one, I think there's a lot of guys that don't realize what's really going on because they're too busy blaming other guys, right? Like guys are pit against each other because these crazy bitches are trying to get away with something. That's the fundamentals of it. Now,
Well, you could be like bringing into the discussion the desire to want to remain kind of blue pilled in a way. So the White Knight is like the blue pill temporarily becoming sort of enraged with red pillness. Actually, I won't take you off in that direction. Otherwise, we'll be talking about colors of pills. But
yeah, fundamentally, I want everybody to be black pill with red stripes and blue polka dots.
yeah, well, I'll just keep it in the realms of more psychological, as we're already been discussing.
Okay. Yeah.
So you got people who like you're ideally you would like men to sort of wake up, sort of thing, and
Yeah, the
say no
switch.
to the women, but you might get some men who, I don't know, they might consciously be aware, but more the case subconsciously, they actually want to be led by the women. They want to be in the bosom of the abuse, like trauma bonding. Like they might recognize that they're being abused, but compared to the other option of being alone, isolated, and
Yeah.
withering away,
Well, what
they
negative attention is better than none, right?
yes, sort of, yeah, basically, yeah. It's not nice to admit, but yeah, I mean, so these guys, even though I look at Will Smith, I mean, he must know how he's being treated isn't right, but for
I don't
whatever,
know.
for a multitude of reasons, he doesn't want to draw the line, or
I think he has terrible fucking mentors in his life. I mean, if Dr. Romney and that crazy fucking other feminist bitch that he's been seeing for 10 years as his therapist, I have a hard time believing he knows what's real. I mean, he probably feels what's really going on, but I'm sure he gets blamed for it every time because they're literally in cahoots with Jada Pinkett Smith.
I heard of it's not really a rule, but I think it's like an advisory where if you've got a therapist, the therapist isn't meant to be like a life partner or something like that. They're
10
not.
years.
And yeah, so I'm not sure where the cutoff point would be, but the idea is that they help you kind of sort out some shit and get you on your feet, and then hasta la vista.
10 years, Billy.
Yeah, so
10 years in hell.
so she's
Professional hell.
yeah. So that is it. That the therapist
Hmm?
is the therapist a woman?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So she's got a good hustle going there.
Oh, big time.
Returning customer,
Oh, big time.
Um,
Big time. And Dr. Romney fucking knows better. If she wasn't a feminist, I mean, she knows better, and she's allowing it to continue. So I'm not particularly happy about that part.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, you get. It's interesting how, as professional as some people may try to be,
yeah,
um,
she has a bias.
the it bleeds through. Yeah,
Yeah, she does. She has a feminist bias, and
yeah. She
she's
doesn't
scared of
really
the sisterhood.
hate to admit it.
Apparently,
And she's sorry.
she's scared of the sisterhood. Apparently,
She's scared of the sisterhood.
yeah. That's just an observation that I've seen.
Wow. I suppose they all have along with all the other kind of character traits and check boxes being ticked. I mean, you'll have
Yeah,
a lack of trust, loyalty. You never know when you're about to be backstabbed or betrayed or uh,
right.
scapegoat or whatever.
And that's the majority of her following. So it's women.
You never know when you'll be thrown under the bus. Uh,
Well, a lot of the men are in that same position too. So in that field or in that realm, they're
yeah.
afraid to speak the truth.
I mean, this is partly why, and I can't blame men if they want to have a kind of like counter dependency approach where it's just like sod it, I can't trust any of them. It's just
Right.
too um to not necessarily interview, but to consider all the arguments and evidence and facts, and it's just too much effort. Just never mind. Sorry, I just don't want to know anymore. Yeah. But despite even saying that, it doesn't stop the invaders trying to tempt tempt the men to compromise their integrity in that sense and be like, haha, I knew I could break you. We're
Right.
in or whatever.
Right. And that's where I kind of like, because I self-identify. Well, and I still haven't come across a single person in this world that picked up the gauntlet of sorting out women. So, and I haven't seen a single woman that is capable at spotting the things and being able to be like, hey, that's fucked up. That's a red flag. Don't do that because this is why, and explain toxic female nature. I haven't seen anybody that's kind of their sole thing. So I feel like it's kind of a duty of mine to be like, oh, hey, like when what can I compare it to? Like giving people the map of where the fucking landmines are. Like I don't know if there's a lot of people that can keep kicking them and still survive and be like, okay, landmine, just be careful, guys. Like,
I think
and this is why this landmine. That's who put it there.
I sense with you, like you mentioned before, how you don't really have um, a care, not really a care, but fear doesn't bother you. You're not bothered by fear,
Yeah.
and I think there's an element of um, own, ownership for any shame that you might have. Whereas with the majority of other women, they've got skeletons in their closets. They're shame based. So
Yeah.
if they were to call out other women,
Oh yeah.
they will realize quite quickly on like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
going to be held under the same
Yes.
blame or whatever. I'm going to be
Yeah.
accountable as much. So they're kind of stupid or they're prevent because they don't want to get themselves into trouble. So it's like, well, I'm going to have to like turn a blind eye to what these other women are doing.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think that fear not being there is a result of having nothing to fear. Probably because I see these crazy cunts for what they are. These cowardly, really small, fucking developmentally retarded, predatory parasites
Well, that's why for me
that
personally,
can't hurt
I,
me personally.
yeah, I mean, I love the idea of losing, because once you hit rock bottom, there's no really, what else have you got to, to lose,
Right.
uh, the only way is up, kind of thing.
Yes.
So
And I feel kind of compelled to help these crazy bitches hit rock bottom because I see a lot of people giving them a safety net so they never do
have
that. They never learn.
you've heard the
Really.
expression of empty crown?
Mm-mm.
There's actually a song called Empty Crown. It's kind of a depressing, sad song, but uh, good
Empty
lyrics.
crown?
Yeah, it's kind of an emotional, sort of sad, "Ooh, woe is me" or whatever sort of song.
Yeah.
Um, but it's
Sung
the
by YAS.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a nice song. It's sung nicely or whatever. But I don't know if the expression "empty crown" came from that song, but the idea being, she wants a crown so badly, but the crown is empty. It's got no jewels in it. It's worthless. It's like, well
Right.
done. You got what you wanted. You got a crown. That's what you wanted, but it means nothing. It's an
Right.
empty crown.
Well, because
It,
it was given, not freely. It
well,
wasn't earned.
it's in some ways it's worse than not having a crown at all,
Yeah.
because you've got this sort of like a temptation. You've got this um, desire of wanting this um, riches and the associated things that you would have, like prestige. It's like you got
Right.
no prestige. It's empty. It's a
Yeah.
hollow shell. Um, and I think I can't remember why did I just bring that up? Empty crown. Because women, I can't
There's
remember.
shame. Yeah, their regret. I'm drowning in regret when the lights come down. Got an empty crown. My body's missing pieces. Can't pull it all together. My body's missing pieces. I wish I could remember. See, that's another thing that I find in all the spaces of all these addicts. They have a terrible memory. Terrible memory. Like some people will even say shit and then try to deny they fucking said shit. Like, and that's where I kind of feel like I'm
Well, that's because
better oriented in reality because I have a fucking killer memory. Like,
where they are, they're not in um, the subject matter or what's being discussed or what's been taking place, because they're so lost in their own, wrapped up in their own emotions. They're consumed by their emotions.
right.
Um, it's just kind of like soup that they're drowning in or whatever. So they're not really. It's like the impulsivity of that survivalistic kind of mindset. But even without that survivalistic aspect, they're still impulsive. They're still. It's one thing to be present in mind, but they're not even present in mind. They're just so wrapped up in the immediate moment, from 1 minute to the next minute to the next minute, which is again goes back echo what we're saying about they could win the lottery, but in the next breathing moment not be happy,
Yeah.
like miserable or something like that. So that because their emotional regulation is all over the place, it's ups and downs like a roller
Yeah.
coaster. It's not even like in a mid-range variation. They're bouncing from extremes of one end to the other, and usually they keep bouncing back into the anger, frustration, rage. That's where they spend most of their time.
Right.
But even
Yeah.
then, I mean,
They've been hyper focused on one emotion. Like,
Well, kind of, I mean, even but particularly if we're talking about like a borderline type of
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
they can seemingly be uh, full of rage. They can be furious. They can be mad at you. But then you show them a kitten, and they'll be like, "Oh, cute little kitty cat." It's kind of like
Right.
I thought what happened to you being furious?
Right.
You know?
They're emotionally fluid.
So there's no
Easy to fucking
stability. There's
manipulate.
no
Okay, that's what I've been doing wrong this whole time. I should have brought kittens everywhere that I went. Kittens.
but to have
Squirrel.
to be able to consistently carry an emotion in
Yeah.
a normal sort of capacity. You know, we're talking about buckets for your self-esteem, but it's like having containers for your emotions as well. I've actually started saying that to my kid: contain your emotions, because her emotions are spilling out all over the place,
Mm. Hmm.
and that's something that they don't want to be able. They don't want to have the responsibility of having to do that. Like,
Right.
like I don't want to have to contain my emotions. It's like they they get a relief from being able to have emotional diarrhea everywhere. Then it becomes your responsibility to deal with my emotion, my emotional outpours, my emotional outbursts. It's your problem, not mine. Then
See, a lot of these people don't realize who's appropriate, who's really who you can trust to be responsible with that. That you can't rely on the entire fucking world to give a shit about you as a person, for one, and for two, to have to deal with that, like just flinging all of your
it
fucking
can never
emotions
work.
on random people, like
Even
that's
yeah,
disrespectful as fuck.
well, but even if people were contorting to try and please this person,
Right.
again, they would never be satisfied. They would never be content
Right.
because because um, their their emotions are not within they don't have custody of their emotions. It's in the hands of other people.
Right.
So they've got this kind of hypocrisy where it's like, I want you to be responsible for my emotions, but I still want them to be my emotions. I just want you to do a good job with it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But whatever it is that you do, even though you might be doing the best for me, I'm never going to be happy because I want to be able to do that for myself, even though I don't want to be responsible for the outcome of my own emotions. So you
Right.
can't have it both ways.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah. That's why they get so triggered when they meet somebody and they're like, vomit all this garbage, and you're like, fuck, I don't care. Answer my question.
Yeah,
Like,
because deep
that
down they
pisses
don't.
them.
It's like
I
I
don't
think
give a shit. Let's get
I
back
think
on topic.
yeah. I mean, I think deep down they wish they had the ability to be
Yeah.
able to do it themselves,
Yeah.
but they sadly don't.
Yeah.
So they're angry that they have to offload it to some extent. In one hand, they're relieved that they can offload it to someone else,
Yeah.
but they're also disappointed with using that shame base. They're upset with themselves because they can't do it for themselves.
Yes.
So
Well, they should be upset with themselves. They're literally failing themselves.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, but try as they might, if they even bother try, they can't do it. So
Well, they should
they have to
ask
hand it.
somebody who knows how for fucking help then.
Well, oh yeah, I mean this is what
That
you have
takes
to do in
humility,
therapy, you
though.
know. Um,
That takes
but
humility
having to
and being
try,
humble.
if they try and do it themselves and then they realize that they can't do it, I mean, and then they have to, for a second time, third, fourth time, have to pass it off to the outside world. Um, each time is like an injury to their self-esteem. Because like, damn it, I thought I could do it. I did. I tried, and I blundered it up. I'm a failure. I'm useless. I
But
can
what
never
if
get
they
it right.
just ask the fucking wrong people?
Well, that's part of
See,
it. I mean,
yeah, people that actually don't even know how. They just See, I feel like these kind of people that we're talking about
and they lack honesty
seek
as
out
well.
people that lie to them because that's what they want to hear, the lies. The oh, it's not your fault. It's
Well, yeah, the lies and the lack of honesty. I mean, it'd be amazing if they turned around and said like, listen, I'm terrible at dealing with uh, disappointment.
right.
So would you mind me ranting to you for half an hour about how disappointed and upset I feel? And maybe you could help me, make me feel a bit better about it. I mean, that'd be pretty honest and
Really,
straight up.
they don't even know. They don't know what disappointment is. They just know it's anger. They just know going back to crazy bitch kindergarten, crazy bitch boot camp kindergarten. They just
Yeah.
know it's angry.
Well, what they do to
They
make it
need
even
somebody to
worse.
come along and be like, "Hey, that anger right there, it's because of this."
But what they do to make it worse is they'll wrap up whatever emotion they're struggling with all sorts of other emotions and justifications, and
Yeah,
then spin it around and blame you for it, and
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
start a fight and have make some sort of like I feel sad, so to stop
yeah.
making myself feel sad, I will start a fight to
Right.
get anger,
Or wow,
to
I feel
wake up
really
anger as a
ashamed that I
to,
was so wrong about this thing, and I'm sorry.
right.
Thanks for letting me know.
I mean, they're more
It's,
interested in distractions from how they truly feel, so they
yeah,
can never have the opportunity to process them, because
yeah,
in one hand, on one hand, it's like they're frightened of how they feel
yeah.
because they're frightened in part because of who they are.
See, and that's what I don't get either.
And
Maybe
then we
because
start
of my
talking
lack
about
of
the living
fear
dead,
thing, frightened of how they feel. Like, what the
Well,
fuck?
because
That
they're
sounds
strangers
stupid.
to they don't know their own emotions. They're strangers to them, and they're not sure how they're going to react or cope or deal with them. So it's like, oh, I'm over. Just the idea of acknowledging how I feel is daunting and is bigger than who I am. My emotions override um, my sense of self. I'm a slave to my emotions, so
Yes.
my emotions are my master. I'm frightened to face my master and control my emotions because that's like standing up to my oppressor. Um,
Right.
so they're in in it's crazy how to try and think of what it must be like to be inside their head is mind-boggling.
Oh,
And I'm
they
sure, like,
every time I have a conversation, well, every time I get emotional diarrhea, like in my mind, I'm picturing their thoughts based on what they're saying. No, it's fucking the reaching that these people do is insane. But they're only doing it because they're lying. Like they don't want to say the true thing, so they ignore that and fucking reach for this other thing and throw it
yeah,
out there. I'm
well,
like,
truth
that's
truth come along with truth is a responsibility of truth.
yeah,
Uh, Denial is free of responsibility. So
right,
denial appears to be boundless. It's got no restraints or restrictions. In a
yeah.
sense, it appears to have freedom.
But
So it's like, so
but it's the
lying,
opposite though.
exactly. But the veneer of it, from how they see it, um, is this is liberation. This will set me free from all my pain and suffering, from all the pain of the truth. Is if I lie.
You know why they think that? I think, and this is just speculation, I think they think that because it's offered them freedom from responsibility in the past. They have never had anybody look them square in the eye and be like, no, no, it's this. Nope, it's this. No, it's this. Nope, it's this. Nope, quit fucking off
Well,
over there. It's this. Quit being a bitch. Quit being a coward. Like they've never had anybody actually challenge them to that degree before. A
I
lot of
mean,
people
yeah,
won't
so,
have. A lot of people, I don't think, will have the patience for one, and the uh, maybe the motivation to do so. I don't know, because a lot of people will just ignore them and be like, okay, yeah, it's
Yeah,
not your
yeah,
fault, or
yeah,
yeah, here, let me powder your
yeah.
butt. Oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Like
But
they've
for
never come
what you're
across anybody that's holding their fucking feet to the
no,
fire.
I mean, for what you're saying to be most effective would be in the child upbringing, and
Yeah,
ideally be provided to them or get instilled in them by their parents.
yeah, and
Now, if
in
that doesn't
over
happen,
time,
yeah,
over time they would learn that and then do it themselves. But we live in
yeah,
a society, Billy, that mothers have been fucking
yeah.
failing.
But unfortunately, you talking about a switch earlier. It's like
Yes.
there's another switch in that child where if that hasn't happened, then that switch gets flipped. And then if anyone tries to now educate them, now they're older,
Yeah.
now that they've learned the alternative way of life,
Right.
the shortcut of how to get away from responsibility, if anything, uh, you frighten them more. You
Mm.
kind of remind them, it's like, oh Jesus, what you're telling me, this truth and taking on responsibility, yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to run away from. Thanks for
Yeah.
reminding me. I need to become more delusional.
Yeah.
So even though you might do it
Oh.
with good
And then they
intent,
feel a sense of shame that they're so fucking inadequate and they realized it.
yeah, I mean they're cyclic in their behaviors and thought patterns. So they're trapped in this trauma of their mind and whatever. So yeah, I mean all sorts. It's a never ending rush of emotions, memories, feelings, thoughts, and delusions and craziness.
Mm.
Um, it's amazing their heads just don't explode. How
Mm.
they get past, I don't know, like the age of 25, 30, is frankly
Well,
amazing. I
they
mean,
have people taking care of them.
well, but even then, like it's still
They have
quite.
people
I think I
cleaning up
think they're
their fucking
struggling on the
messes.
whole. I think society, those mentally like that, I think they're finding it more and more difficult now. I mean, the kind of um, displays that we see
Yeah.
are much more um, overt, I suppose is the way to put it. I
Hmm.
mean, at least before in the past, you might hear incidents of a few kind of like loco sort of people who are gone a bit nuts in
No,
the
it's
street
spread.
or whatever. But
It's
yeah,
spread.
it's so commonplace that
Yeah.
everyone is picking up on it, you know,
It's contagious, Billy. Crazy
and
butchery
or
is fucking contagious.
that amplifies it.
Yeah.
It's like if you've got someone who is so insecure, frightened, and they're struggling, and they got all these like inner demons going on, and they look next to them for some sense of stability or assistance, even, and the person they're looking towards is equally as
Yes. It
gaga.
exacerbates the problem because
I'm
they
like,
feed
oh,
off of each
fuck,
other.
I'm out of luck.
Yes. Well, that's why it's important to pick
Yeah.
your surroundings.
And then they make yet another switch where they go, "Oh, there's no point even trying. I might as well embrace the dark side or whatever it is. I might as well embrace um, the craziness. And if people can't accept it, then f them. I'll just find someone who will."
Right. And that's where we need to get rid of all the people that keep enabling these fucks. People need to
Yeah.
stop. Those people need to be shamed the most, I think.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, we have this fucking crazy bitch over here that's literally so developmentally retarded. Yeah. Who keeps telling this cunt what she's
Well,
doing is a
yeah.
good idea?
Uh,
That's it.
a credit to the human spirit, um, and this isn't really a positive, but it's amazing the level of tolerance
Malignant tolerance.
of the enablers, because like we brushed on it earlier, like even if someone wants to enable, it's draining, it's taxing, it's exhausting. You can never really, unless you sacrifice who you are
Right.
so that they can live. You must psychologically and spiritually die so that
Right.
they can live.
Right.
There's no way, and even then, you can never be enough for them.
Right.
Because the only person who will ever really be enough for them is them, but
Right.
they're choosing not to be available for themselves in that sense. So that's why there's no cure in a way, and the power of change really comes down to, there's, in some ways, there's nothing we can do as outsiders, as much as we might like to think we could. But for a significant change to really happen, it must happen in the mind of the person who wants to change. But if they don't want to change, then they are the condemned.
Yeah.
And in some ways, that gives them a better sense of security, was a better sense of stability than anything else. They kind of feel like, well,
only because our society helps these people. If our
yeah.
society went
But
their own way
this
and
is
said
where they would
fucking crazy
call, this is where
bitches, it would
their
change.
so-called sanity would lie. So
Yeah.
it's like trying to be normal and integrate into society
Yeah.
is hard work. It's crazy to me, but being crazy actually makes sense to me. I feel more comfortable with being crazy.
It is
I
more
like it.
comfortable, right? But who makes it comfortable, Billy?
Well, they make themselves at home.
Yeah, and people allow it. Somebody can't just move in without your fucking permission. Right?
Yeah, I mean, people make it more comfortable, I suppose. I mean, I think they'll still manage by themselves, but yeah, I mean, people they help facilitate it.
Yeah, yeah, with these superficial pleasantries that they, I mean, it's just more lies, but I think it's enough for these people to be drawn to those other people.
If you wanted to make an argument for how these mentally unstable people are being let down or being further,
They're being neglected and abused by the people that let them get away with their fuckery.
that's right. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like the white lie kind of thing, and
Yeah.
um,
It's not kind. It's
it's
not nice.
cruelty. What's the thing? Is it cruelty wrapped in kindness?
Yeah.
Something like
It is.
that.
Because deep down, like if these people really realized that the people that do that, we'll call it for them or to them, only do that because it makes them feel better and they enjoy watching that person like spiral and spiral and spiral and get into a deeper hole because it makes that person feel better about themselves. So they try to help that person trash their friend's life because it makes them feel better.
Yeah, it's like, whew, I'm glad that's not me.
Exactly. At least I'm not that fucked up. Like,
Yeah, as if it's like a marker to make a comparison.
yeah.
Like, oh, geez, so you're doing well in life because you're comparing yourself to someone who's mentally unhinged.
And that you're helping become more mentally unhinged. That's the fucked up part. That's the malevolence that
it's in multiple ways as well, because I mean, one thing is they're intentionally
sabotaging them.
Yeah, a good word. Yeah, sabotaging, or I was gonna say gaslighting or something like that. But even if they believe they were doing it with good intent, what they would be doing, if they truly had good intent, what they would be doing is saying to this person,
the truth.
You need to get some help. You need to get some intervention or get booked into a clinic or something. You know,
or just, hey, knock it the fuck off. What you're doing right now is inappropriate irresponsible.
Yes,
You're
yes.
you're making a fool of yourself. Like, wake up, lady. And you would expect somebody that actually claims to care about these fucking crazy bitches. Like, I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
expect those kind of people to do that.
I mean, sometimes compassion is on the receiving end of a smack.
Exactly. That's when a lot of people like get enlightened.
Yeah.
That the Emmanuel, he said his most enlightening times was after he got punched in the face.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah, because the mentally ill person, I mean, it must be even more confusing than when they get enabler, like someone who, like an enabler, saying to them like, "Oh yeah, you really are top dog. You're beautiful. You're
Right.
whatever. You're amazing. You're a
Yeah. Oh,
queen."
you're so cute. Oh, you're so smart. Oh, you're so
Right. Yeah.
whatever.
They go home, look in the mirror, and they go, "Geez, I don't feel like that."
Right.
But
Yeah, they
my
know.
enabler said I am.
Yeah.
Something doesn't quite align here.
Yeah, maybe there's something wrong with my perception of myself. Maybe I should fake it till I make it. Meanwhile, all the fakes are jerking each other off because they're all fakes and they're destroying each other's
I see.
lives.
I mean that's been cultivated. That kind of fake it till you make it sort of
Yeah.
motto.
Yeah. I've
Um,
never liked it. Like, no, don't fake shit. If you don't know, just ask.
well,
Like,
it's a shortcutting in life, isn't it?
yeah.
I never really
Stolen
like.
valor.
Yeah,
I see that as stolen valor.
yeah,
These
comes from that.
pseudo virtue signals a lot of people fucking love doing. I'm like, mm-mm. Don't buy it. I'm sorry. Just because you said you're that, I don't believe you now. Just because you said it. You shouldn't have to. What time is it, Billy?
2:40.
Um, I don't want to keep you up too late.
So have we covered the White Knight? We didn't really cover the what was the other White Knight compared with integrity.
Yeah,
See,
we can wrap it up with integrity. Because that's what I see a lot of. Like, when I see a lot of people that are getting accused of being a white knight, when I look at those people, I'm like, I see that as a person with integrity that's trying to do their part to properly fucking socialize members of our society. And they're being honest. So,
yeah, and I would speculate that those who stand beside someone who is making good arguments or has good prerogatives, directives, etc. That I mean, it must be a bit of to have an accusation like, "Hey, you're being a white knight." It must be a bit of a shock to them because it's like
right?
I didn't think I thought I was standing beside principles here.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And for the person to make the accusation, it's like, weren't you listening? Did you miss the arguments being made?
Right.
So you see something else going on. Well, it's like perception, or a conflict in perception.
Yes.
And then I suppose there's like a conflict of interests taking place.
And motivation. Yeah. Well, what I don't get is fucking men calling other men white knights for for having their brother's back. I don't get that. Because that seems completely fucking counterproductive to any of the MGTOW tenets
What,
or philosophy or principles that I've seen. Like,
I mean, usually when they say white knight, it's in response to a sort of like a man defending a woman. But if a man is defending a man, I mean,
Yeah.
is that still white knight?
No, no. I that would be a hard sell to fucking convince me of such. Yeah.
What if they are gender reassigned?
No, no, no.
Make it all convoluted. Like, oh,
Yeah.
Betty, you're being difficult. Stop it.
Yeah. No. That's the weirdest thing that I've seen as far as white knights go. A man accusing another man of white knighting for another man. That's the fucking highest. I put that in crazy bitch territory because I'm like, there's nobody in their right mind that thinks that way for one, because they witness a dude having another dude's back. Like, yeah, I don't get it.
There's also a level of entitlement or assertion where, or did we already cover this? Where perhaps whoever it is that is being defended, perhaps they don't want the assistance of a white knight. You know, it's like Captain here I come to save the day, Captain Saberho, and it's like get the fuck out of here. I don't need your help.
Well, in this specific scenario, it was on a gentleman's channel. He shared a thing, and then he had two people accusing him of being stuff that he's not, and then another person that's pretty basic and grounded went in and been like, really, like pointing out an obvious, and then he got like, oh, you're just white knighting for this guy that we're attacking undeservingly. So strangely, it's like what, I don't know.
It's like if that's what you believe, I mean, I can't really stop you believing what you want to believe.
Well, strangely, they're literally puppeting shit that Alice has been saying. So these are Alice puppets.
You know, is it a case that it matters more to you, or is it something that should matter to me?
Right. They're literally puppeting words that they got 14th hand from fucking Alice.
It's kind of well, I think that what they're looking for in a way is that sort of gotcha. So it's like you're a white knight, or you've been white knighting, and then the accused says, "Ah, shit, you're right, you got me."
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
because
I
that's
find it strange.
in part why they go for a little bit of like the juggler, or they're persistent, or like no, you know, I'm gonna make sure you acknowledge that you're now branded as a white knight, and I want you to sign off on it.
Yeah.
Because their argument becomes, if the other person, the accused, says, "Meh, I don't really care what you say.
Yeah.
I'm standing by principles, and I know in my hearts of hearts that what I'm doing is the right thing,"
Yeah.
then it kind of deflates um, the accusation.
See, and I saw another instance of that in a different area where there was a gentleman that got accused of white knighting, and the response was, you know what, fuck it, like so be it. If doing the right thing makes me a white knight, so be it, you know. And that kind of deflated it.
Yeah, because I think in part the accusers hope there'll be like a defense made, and then because you're getting worked up and now usually emotionally defensive about it, it's like that's your guilt. So you just confirmed to me you are a
Right.
white knight, because why would you have to defend yourself otherwise?
Right.
It's like, come on, don't try and reverse psychology.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and that's the game that they're playing. It's an emotional one. It's emotion garnering. It's like they are emotionally and mentally unstable themselves. So they just go in places and throw their poo all over the place to see what sticks. And if you react to them throwing poo, they're like, ooh, see, that's your poo, not mine.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
They're like little monkeys.
That's it's interesting we mentioned that because another part of like the sexual remark section of our conversation
Right.
is a little bit like that, where they're trying to work out what, like maybe what kind of kinky things you might like, or what your
Right.
preferences might be, or whatever. A
Right.
little bit of poking around and being intrusive, obviously,
Right.
the boundaries to
Or
see what
just
you're.
flat out saying, oh, this person wants me. That's why they're reacting this way towards my unwanted I don't know. I don't want to call it sexual harassment, but it kind of
No,
falls in that
it is, yeah,
arena.
or
Yeah.
even as far as like it's a form of assault in a way, because it's like your preferences, your thoughts, whatever. I mean, your sexuality. That's none of anyone's business.
Right? Well, feminists brought that into the public, so anytime the PUAs are like doing that shit, I'm like, you're literally a feminist. Like you wanna insert sex into fucking everything. Okay, you're a baby, you're a product of the sexual liberation movement that the feminists burnt their bras for.
Okay, I see. Peng has a question. What is the origin of integrity? I was like, it kind of comes. It stems from having self-respect, which is accompanied by having self-esteem. To value yourself to an extent where you won't allow your sense of being to be compromised. So you give it you give it some respect. You will not sacrifice it. You will not disrespect it. You will not tarnish it.
Highly value it. Highly
Not,
value it. So you preserve it.
yeah.
I
And
don't
integrity
think it's
adds to the value of that as well. Yeah.
yeah. I need to pee real quick, but I'm just gonna say I don't think it's a disadvantage in our society. It might look like it because the crazy bitches, but long term it's not a disadvantage. The people that have
Yeah.
integrity have the advantage. So just because they haven't slaughtered all the crazy cunts as of yet doesn't mean they won't. All right, I'm gonna pee.
Yeah. I mean, the integrity is a dangerous thing to the outside person, especially the emotionally unstable or ill, or to the abusive. Actually, more concerning, because your integrity sort of shines authenticity with it. It's not really masquerading as something else. It's being true to yourself. So there's honesty. There is, and to have a sense of security with your own truth, which really has vulnerabilities embedded in it. So to have security in your vulnerabilities, or in an oxymoron kind of way, to have security in your insecurities is quite a amazing feat to achieve. It bewilders someone who is compromised, because they're like, how on earth do you pull this off? And it's frightening to those types of people, because it's more than just like you stand there with a form of like bravery or courage, because despite what's going on around you, you are going to stand by your morals, you're going to stand by your principles, you're going to stand with who you are. I mean, they are ashamed of who they are, so they
Right.
look at you as like, What on earth did you possess that you can not feel like how I feel? You're different to me, and that scares me.
Yeah. And the people that lack integrity live in a constant state of fear. And the people that have integrity can see other people that have integrity and they will fucking stand with them
Yeah,
no matter what. So
yeah. That's
there,
why.
I think there's a lot more people that have integrity than a lot of people fucking realize. Just because they don't say anything doesn't mean that if the shit hits the fan, they won't declare what side they're actually on. So
And that's why a healthy person is toxic to someone who is unhealthy.
dangerous.
Well, dangerous as well.
Yeah.
So when we look at predators and abusive people, they will target people who are already vulnerable, who are already damaged in a way,
Yeah.
because they can take advantage of those cracks in the armor,
Yeah.
all those wounds, and make them bigger.
Yeah.
If a unhealthy person was to try and get a relationship with a healthy person,
Right.
they they'll be lucky to survive it, because the healthy person will unintentionally, just because of their healthy stature, will cause the wounds in the unhealthy person to what's a good word, like exacerbate. They'll magnify. It's like your health. It's like by proxy. It's like, Jesus, you outshine me so much, you make me feel utter shite. You
Yeah.
know? So an unhealthy person is avoidant of healthy people and healthy things in general.
Yeah.
Um,
That's why Xavier from the Prophet of Thought can't get a single fucking feminist to have a one-on-one discussion or debate with me. None of them
and
will
it's
do it. No, they're too scared.
well, and it's also I suppose, like an imperative, or it's a high on the to-do list to try and compromise someone's integrity. And
Right.
they know that with enough time and bombardment and exhausting your target, um, even the most healthiest of people can eventually waver and crumble. That, there is, it's possible. Maybe you might have to have allies to help batter this opponent down, but no one is
Yeah.
perfect and 100% immune to psychological or emotional abuse, or whatever
Yeah.
circumstances. I mean,
Yeah.
even if a healthy person, like they lost a job, or they become homeless, or they got robbed one day, or they get an illness, or things, life happens to them.
Yeah.
So there are times when healthy people end up fitting into the category of now being a vulnerable person.
Yes. Exactly.
Now there is an angle there to attack.
Yeah.
So
And they'll make that shit happen. They will target people that they can, you know, speak to the manager and get them fucking fired.
right,
That's
you
why
know,
somebody that's completely self-employed, doesn't owe anybody anything, and has a very big
I mean,
goal
I
and a
mean,
very tenacious fucking character,
yeah, yeah.
they can't do anything to
I
them.
mean, they're opportunists as well. So I mean, it doesn't even have to be something perceived as a negative, like they lost a job, they lost a family member or something. I mean,
Yeah.
they could inherit a lot of money. They could suddenly have a newborn child enter their life. These are
Yeah.
good things.
Yeah.
But for someone without any experience, for a healthy person without experience of dealing with such things, again, they're now in the vulnerable category. They're open to being exploited.
Right. Right.
And like Peng is saying here, like where the society is deeming it as a disadvantage. Well,
Right.
yeah, because unfortunately, the way abusive people operate, like we were talking earlier about how lying provides them what they perceive to be unlimited freedom. the ability to do what they like and get away with it because they can simply lie.
Yeah.
Whereas someone who has integrity
Yeah.
must, by their own definition or principles, follow etiquettes, follow morals, follow guidelines and rules, so they try to invert this to use it against you. It's
Yeah.
like, if you've got integrity and you're an honest person, therefore you're not going to ever lie. So they see that as a disadvantage. It means that, well, you can't get away with what you like then. But really, as we know,
Yeah.
being able to have the integrity of not lying, to be accountable when you effed up or when you've been maybe dishonest,
Yeah.
is actually quite a virtuous, in a good way, virtue to have. This isn't virtue signaling. This is actually having, um,
Unadulterated virtue.
right, and a
Or
maturity about
not
it.
bastardized virtue.
It's like, I messed up. I was wrong.
Yeah.
And it's not just I made a mistake, but okay, I was actually dishonest. I stole something that I shouldn't have stolen or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And
and I
that's
messed up.
respectable when people actually admit that shit. That's
Right,
respectable.
right.
But to
So
double down, to try to dodge accountability some more is the most despicable, disgusting, bottom feeding bullshit I've ever seen.
I
in my
didn't eat the
entire life.
last cookie in the jar. Was it
Yeah.
me? The dog did it. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Come
Like,
on, man.
totally watched you do it. Now you're going to try to blame it on somebody else? Really? Yeah. And that's true. I agree with that, Peng. Driven by the fear, though. What is the fear? To lose something valuable to you, right? Especially men. I think men get fear mongered, and they get terrorized to the point where they get their livelihoods and their fucking futures held hostage by a lot of these fucking cunts. Like, yeah, you can get people to do terrible things. Christopher Hitchens, what good people do good things, bad people will do bad things. But to get a good person to do a bad thing, you need religion, or insert cult. Any one of these social justice cults, I can.
I think as a addition to for the clarification between a white knight and someone who is with integrity, is standing by the principles, is that the person with the integrity standing by principles recognizes there's more at stake here than
Yeah.
simply, oh, you're a white knight.
Well, yeah, yeah,
I mean, to say white knight is kind of like a low resolution perception of the situation.
yeah, yep,
Now, perhaps the person making the accusation hasn't got the wherewithal to have a wider scope of what's going on.
yeah. They
Um,
don't. They don't.
but
They've already been terrorized themselves. That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
the places that I'm talking
I mean,
about that I've
perhaps,
seen this,
well, then
it's
perhaps with that narrow perception or that tunnel vision or the narrow viewpoint, which is possibly why they derive to a conclusion such as, what we're dealing here, what we're dealing with here is someone who's a white knight. It's,
right.
we're just going to sign it off quickly and uh, simplify it
It's a
for
way
our,
to dismiss. Like,
yeah, dismiss it and
yeah,
compartmentalize it, categorize it, or put it in a box. Once
yeah,
it's in a box, we can now put our hand, we can hand it,
label it.
we can deal with it, because
Yeah.
otherwise we don't know how to deal with it because it's beyond
Right.
us.
Right. They're not capable or qualified. Yeah. Well, you know what? Listen, because Hitchens was one of my favorite atheist mentors. Because I've never been a person of, I guess, any kind of faith. But if you re-listen to him and just think cult instead of religion, and think SJW, think feminist, think uh, you know, any one of these group identitarians that are in the SJW categories, Listen to it with that in mind, and then see what you think, because it fits perfectly. I was listening to a conversation he had with who was it? I don't know. It was an old one the other day, and they were literally talking about feminists. Yeah, it's funny. You know, a lot of these public figures can't speak the whole truth, and they use words to label stuff that looks like the thing, but isn't the real thing. A lot of men have been had to do that for decades. I mean, they can't just go out and say, "Oh, hey, it's toxic women that's the problem," in a society that hails toxic women.
Yeah, I mean, you could make an argument like, oh, it's the raising up of the women, like i.e. the parenting. Then it comes back to the women again because it's like, well, who is the parent that's raising the kids? Because men have been extradited from the family structure, so it's women who are dropping the ball on the parenting. I mean, that opens up a whole nother conversation about what do they actually teach their children? Then, if anything, instead of parenting, they sabotage their children. I don't actually know who Hitchens is, so I'll have to look him up. But I see Miss Sunkiss is here, and she's got a story. I hope it's a quick one because I'm going to be jumping off in a minute.
All right, sorry.
I don't know if Miss Sunkiss if she wants to jump on the panel to tell the story, or if she can type it out. I don't know.
She said, I'm not going to tell it here. Okay. She might, yeah, she might leave it on or tell it on her channel.
Yeah, she's teasing us. Oh, you tease.
Oh, she is such a tease. She's such a tease. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Dawkins too. I don't know. Biology is kind of I have to say, my first love as far as the sciences go. So that's where I've spent the majority of my life. Biology. If I were to pick a favorite discipline. Yeah, so Billy, there's this show that came up on oh, okay. Yeah, how about tomorrow? Because after this stream, me and Cam are going to paint some stuff and watch this show. The show on Netflix, it's called The Sandman. I mean, besides all the gay shit, I like it. It's really cool. Really, really cool. Plus, I have a rock to finish painting. An owl. I'm going to send it to Sunkiss when I'm done. I'm going to send her an owl.
Yeah. Hey, you're very welcome.
I'm going to mail her a rock. Along with some fish stuff, but...
And everyone else watching. So I'm going to jump off now, I suppose.
Yeah, I know it's late for you.
Yeah. So thank you for the invite to the conversation, good mother.
No, thank you, Billy, for going back and forth about this with me. You said many things that helped calibrate my brain. So.
Oh, you're very welcome. I mean,
always.
Yeah, I hope it was intriguing, educational, insightful, whatever. It did feel like it was kind of like a bit disjointed and all over the place.
But I don't think so. I think it will help a lot of people.
Yeah, we kept it a bit on track at least, or something like
that. Yeah.
So thank you and take care. Looking forward to speaking again soon, and everyone in the chat, hope you're all doing well. See you when I see you, I suppose.
Yeah.
All
Bye,
right.
everybody. I'm ending this now. We'll see you later. Actually, as if you need more rocks in Washington. No, these are special rocks. These are actually the kind of rocks me and my nana used to paint growing up. Um, it's gonna look like an actual owl. So it's for your garden, Mrs. Sunkiss. You will be the only one that has that rock. But it's for the garden that you're gonna make. Oh, do you want to see how big it is? It's not finished yet. Hopefully, it will keep birds away from your garden. I think it's like that big. Oh, you want to see it? Okay. It's not light, but it's perfect rock for an owl. Oh, Harley. Yeah. I hope so. This lady told you no. No what? Actually, I'll drop this. If you want to chat for a second. Oh, the lady told you no in the garden. Well, you can have pots and you can do all kinds of stuff. Oh, where are you then? Oh, you're at the working man's hostel. Everybody's at the Crazy Bitch Boot Camp, Sunkiss. Yeah, that's for you. Hello.
That's for me, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So she said you couldn't have a garden? Oh, wait, you're muted.
My bad.
There you go.
She said it's not enough space, but I do not accept that answer.
Yeah, right?
Let me show
Maybe
it
for
to you.
her.
You know what? Since she won't let me have a garden, you know what I think I will do?
What? There's tons of space.
Hold on, let me. I can't figure out this damn thing. Okay. She says this is not enough space, right?
Jesus, fuck. Really?
But hold on. This is what I think I'm gonna do since she told me no. This belongs to the city. So I think I'm gonna go to the city and ask them if I can put a community garden over here.
um.
It's a really small town.
Yeah. You know, I will tell you what one of my city manager friends told me.
Uh-huh.
It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission from the city. So I would just do it and then be like, oh, I thought that was part of my property. I mean, does anybody go there really for anything?
So from what I understand, somewhere over here in these trees is a trail.
Okay.
So like the lady, she built like it's 4 houses on this street. And she built them up here because she's like, people want to live here because of the small town feel,
Yeah.
but there were no places to live.
Yeah.
So she got this property and she wants this property, but the city won't give it to her.
Huh.
So I'm like, you don't want to let me put a garden. The city might let me do a community garden, and fuck you, lady.
Yeah. I mean, because if you go ask the city and they're like, "Oh yes, do it," and then I mean, do you want other people fucking with your garden? Is what I'm asking. Like,
Well, if it's a community garden, then that means it's other people helping as well. You know.
but I'm just letting you know what you might run into is you're gonna fucking do all the work, and then you're gonna have a bunch of freeloaders coming to pick your shit because it's a community garden.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what I would worry about in that location.
I can hope that people will be civilized human beings.
Well, hope in one hand, sun kiss, and shit in the other. Which goes up first?
You
But
know,
yeah,
I have.
so you'll be able to put this in your garden when it's finished, and it'll look like a real owl, which will
Yeah,
scare the shit out of like all kinds of shit.
yeah. They said bears hang out around here.
Yeah,
So the other night, I woke up. My time schedule is all off. I
yeah,
was up at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna go outside and because this is the country. Nobody told me Washington was country as hell. I'm in love, okay? So I'm like, oh, okay. I said, oh, it's 2 o'clock. It's the stars gonna be pretty. So I come outside and I'm sitting on the porch and I look up and I'm like, oh, that is so pretty because the moonlight was shining on the tree. And I was like, tree. Wait a minute, it's a forest though. Bears. Take your ass back in the house.
well, you don't really have to worry about bears and stuff. Like they won't. If you see one,
Uh-huh.
you'll be able to see it. You'll be able to hear it. You'll be able to see it from a distance. They're only really attracted like if you had food outside or something. Like if you ever go camping, like you got to hang up your food like in the trees because if you leave it out, bears might come or raccoons or they'll get into your shit. So if you hang it up tall,
So I'm
the
gonna
the
meet
smell will
some.
go higher and it won't
No, no,
attract.
no, no. I'm gonna wait till I meet more white people and make more white friends and go
Yeah,
with them so I can learn. Cause other than that, I'm going to a campsite that has cabins.
yeah,
I'm going. I, I'm not big enough to go out and live off the land yet. I would like to, but you
yeah,
start talking about wildlife, and I'm like, no, the city girl in me comes out. No, I'm
yeah,
from the city. We don't do that.
yeah, yeah.
We have stray cats and dogs. We don't have
Right.
wild bears.
Well, the wild bears are safer to be around than a lot of city folks. So
Let me tell you. I can tell my story. Um.
no, you don't have to tell it on here,
Okay.
or do you want to?
Um. I just really want you to know
Okay,
because it's a little weird,
okay.
and I don't got. I don't. I was questioned as to if you were streaming.
Questioned
Yeah.
if I was streaming
Yes, by a young girl.
by a young girl. Oh, a previously blocked one.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
questioned because um there was a statement that I made and she wanted to let me know that she disagreed with me. And I was like, okay, that's fine. But I still said what I said. And she needed to let me know that she disagreed with me again.
yeah.
And I said, I don't really care that you disagree with me, ma'am. You are a child. You don't
Right,
have enough life experience for me to argue with you. Because she gonna
right,
tell me, I'm not gonna argue with you. You can't argue with me, ma'am. You don't have enough life experience
right.
to fully flush out your disagreement with me. You're not old enough. You
Right.
damn sure don't live enough. So you are discounted in two different ways
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
even
Your
qualify.
opinion doesn't fucking matter, you stupid little young bitch. Piss off.
Yes,
I'll say it.
I think because okay, of the support that she's getting from certain people,
Yeah.
she's becoming emboldened to act like a
Yeah.
little asshole.
Yeah.
I
Well,
just think you should know because I'm not fit to do that. Not with no. I didn't
yeah.
do it with the other one. I'm not gonna do it with her.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. So because I said I wasn't gonna argue with her and she didn't have enough life experience.
yeah.
Well, um, is is Mandy streaming? I said I don't know, but your fingertips can find out just like you asking me.
I haven't seen her, so
Yeah, I'm like, what is your point? Why would you bring her up? You mad because I don't want to argue with you? Girl, you are a child.
yeah.
Don't make me tell you something like stay in a child's place. I don't even want to disrespect you like that. But
Well, I think she needs it. She might she might be cruising for some proper mentorship. I think the all the other crazy bitches and her you know, all the other women that apparently claim to care about her are failing her big time. So maybe she's just looking for some proper guidance. And
well,
by
she ain't
proper
gonna get it from
guidance,
me unless she paying me. She can go to the website, book a consultation, or get on the mentorship list.
right? She probably should. It would probably save her life. But
I mean, I done tried to talk to her because she can. I ain't even got time. I don't even feel like it. Like,
yeah,
girl, what is you doing? Stop sitting up here advertising yourself on the internet. Just stop.
yeah,
Like you prostituting without the sex.
right, right.
No, you might not see it that way, but that's how the men are going to interpret it. Stop that shit.
Yeah. By the way, hello Harley.
Hey, how's it
Hey,
going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing alright. I just popped on here. Was just chilling after I made some dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Made some fried pork with spinach rice and garlic bread.
That sounds yummy. Sounds
that's so
really.
weird.
Yeah, you froze. Well, I was just signing off because I have painting to do and a show to watch about the Sandman.
What channel?
It's on Netflix. It's pretty funny.
I'm talking about show channel. What channel is this?
Which one?
Oops, my bad.
You're frozen, so
Am I still okay?
okay. Now you're good.
No, which channel is this?
The Working Man's Hostel.
Yes.
I changed the word evil mother. I changed the channel name either mother, evil mother to the Working Man's Hostel.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know what is going on with YouTube. I can't see no comments.
Hmm.
That's why I was confused.
Yeah, everybody else was in the Crazy Bitch Boot Camp stream.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I'm streaming it on 3 at once. So
Not run naked in a field covered. No, I won't be doing any of that.
and yes, Lawrence.
Yeah, honestly, as far as bears go, you don't really have to worry about them because they're a lot more scared of you than you are of them. Unless they got cubs with them. If they got cubs with them, then I would recommend leave them alone. But other than that, like, you don't really got to worry about them.
I'm just worried about my trash can.
Well, see the trash pandas. Those are what you need to worry about.
So do I like leave my trash can in the garage or?
Yeah, I would keep it keep it indoors if you can, and then don't take it out until it's time to pick it up, and then once it's picked up, bring it back in, just to help avoid that issue. Unless you can manage to find, I think on Amazon they have trash cans that have lids that can lock, so you can lock the lid to help keep critters out. But
Mhm.
I'm not sure as far as like how much those cost or anything, or because I also know depending on the trash service you use, sometimes they give you cans, so you have to use their cans.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they did give us trash cans. It's just so. This is totally different than anything I've ever experienced. So I'm like, I don't know how to live here.
yeah, you'll get used to it. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Have you met your neighbors yet?
It's funny. I met one neighbor like at the front of the street, and he's the principal to the elementary school.
Nice.
So it's like two elementary
Nice.
schools. They got like one for pre-K to like first grade, and then third through fifth is at another one, and then the junior high and the high school. And then the the realtor, she was here, and somebody came over to tell me that the math teacher lives across the street.
Nice.
I looked at my son. I said, "Uh oh." I said, "Your teacher can come to your. I can go to your teacher's house and have dinner."
Yeah.
Oh boy, this is
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
be so much fun.
Yeah. That's so funny.
Yeah, this is like it's so much new stuff. I've never lived in a small town before, so that's new.
Oh,
On top of the new state, totally different culture. It seems all right. I'm still trying to find the Indians though. I need some moccasins.
really?
I
There-
can't find them.
There's 206 fucking reservations there.
I ain't found that. It like they hide. It said you're going into Native American territory or some crap like that. And I'm just like, but where they at though?
Okay, just look for the words you can't pronounce, and those are reservations.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need some moccasins. That's all I need. I tried to get some in New Mexico. Now I did get some Indian food, Native American Pueblo food in New Mexico.
Yeah.
But when we got to I see y'all remember that when America the Beautiful, y'all remember that song? I had to sing it in school.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I got to see all of that coming here. I was like, oh, this what they was talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of winter, I'll be taking a trip to the fruited plains and get me some fruit. It's gonna
Yeah.
be great.
Okay. Well, ladies, I have to go. Do you want me to leave this running so you guys can stay, or?
It's up to Lucine. What she
I
want to do?
don't mind. I don't
Well,
mind
all right.
staying.
Well, we can kick it. We'll
Chat a
figure
little
out.
bit.
Or
We'll figure out.
I don't know if you planned on streaming, or I don't know.
Me?
Yeah.
I can. You want to come over and talk to me?
That's fine.
Okay, I'll go strike up a stream.
All right.
All righty. Have a good one.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
I'll text you tomorrow. Thank you. And Harley, we need to catch up too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Are you going to be up a while?
Yeah, I'm usually up pretty late, to be honest. I'm up till like midnight, 1 in the morning. So, yeah.
Well, I'll see what time I finish.
All right.
And then see how late it is, and maybe I'll shoot you a text tonight. Okay.
All right.
Later. Bye, everybody. Bye, Lawrence. Bye. Good night, Peng. Thanks for taking part in that convo. I know you had been seeing some of that yourself. Been on the brunt of that. So just say hi, my master. Good night, Nella Wolf. We'll see y'all later. And I already let some folks know if they need me for later for something to let me know. So, all right, y'all. Have a good night.